Yo, yo.
Wait, so was that like an intro before the intro? Did you do a pre-intro to the intro? What was that?
No, that was for Instagram. That wasn't live.
Oh, okay.
That was for Instagram to get people from my Instagram, and I'll tag you in it too so you can repost.
Let's do it. What is going on, guys? Welcome. Profit and Paradox, episode 22. Tonight's going to be a fun night. I am not as prepared as I want to be, but I think that's good because both of us are kind of coming into this, just taking some information that we've both seen and chatting about it. If a lot of you guys have, if any of you guys have a TV or a phone, you know that there's some really, really, really powerful storms that are taking place right now. Captain, my captain. I got to start with
my
Kelly.
guy. I love that guy.
Did you see this guy? This guy went crazy on my YouTube, just coming for me like a psychopath in my YouTube comments.
Well, he was for me as well. I don't know if you remember, I'm pretty sure he was calling me, he was calling me a communist. I think he called me a libtard. It was good.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sure. Well, then at least he's an equal opportunity attacker. In any case, appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. Notice I said your name right this time. I couldn't get it right the other day. But yeah, guys, we're going to talk about some stuff tonight. I think it's going to be interesting. Came across some videos that I think are interesting, and we're just going to kind of explore it. But there is a very,
right before that, though, we have an announcement. Just so that you guys know, is that next week, and from that point on, we're switching the show Wednesday, 5 p.m. MST,
Wednesdays.
Not Tuesday. I'm going to announce at the end also. We are switching the time because I need to join the rock climbing club to get laid.
Now you understand the motive. Jonah needs to change days so he can get laid. So now we're transitioning. We're transitioning so you can get laid.
And Keanu's the boy, and he understands completely. He was like, dude, I got you.
Mm-hmm. Who am I to be like, oh, you trying to, you trying to expand your social circle, right? However you want to look at that.
No, I'm not trying to expand my social circle. I'm trying to get laid. Very specific.
Right. This cannot be the podcast, the cock block podcast. That is not the name of this podcast. So thou shalt not cock block. I think that was in a book somewhere. So we're not going to. So we're going to switch from Tuesdays to Wednesdays. But here's the plus side of us switching from Tuesdays to Wednesdays is we get to start every Wednesday asking Jonah if in fact he got laid the previous night. And if he always says no, we know he's got no game. And then we can change. Yeah, we know he's a loser.
We know he's a fucking virgin loser.
So yeah, bro, it's gonna be fun. I hope you have a good time joining your rock. Are you guys gonna actually climb real rocks? Or are you?
I think it'll be. I think it'll just be the rock climbing gym. I mean,
you're climbing plastic rocks. This is from the Bro Bible. Thou shalt
not.
It's
pretty good to climb real rocks. You know. Like you can't be fucking around with real rocks.
No, you can't. Because if you fall, then there's the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, that's not it. So, I have, in fairness, never rock climbed.
I've been rock climbing for like 2 months now. So like I'm better than I was, but I'm still got a lot of work to do.
How does one improve? Like, what is getting good at climbing plastic rocks look like? And I'm making it sound like it's a joke. I know it's not a game. Like that's actually hard.
It's understanding weight transfer. There's a lot of interesting like weight transfers. Like I'm starting to understand like, okay, if my hand is very low and one hand is very high, let's just say most of my weight is being bared by my left hand. Let's just say, right? So I've only got a little bit if this grip is like not strong. Like if the rock on my left hand and it's lower is like a shitty grip, I'm gonna lose it and then I'm gonna fall unless I like get moving, right?
That's crazy.
Wow, like that's one thing that I've learned, right, from falling like a couple times, right? So
did it hurt?
No, I know how to fall. So I used to do jujitsu, so like they teach you how to fall, right? So like I know how to fall and make it not hurt, right?
That makes it sound that you used to get your ass kicked in jiu-jitsu, to be clear.
Of course I did. If you're any good at fighting, you got your ass kicked, right?
Well, there you go. Okay. Honest question. With the rock climbing. No, here's the thing, man. Nathan said that he's gonna be Nathan said he's going to come into the podcast and just randomly ask real estate related questions, regardless of what we're discussing. Just to throw it. Yeah, bro. It's I've always been a heavy dude, like physically heavy. So I imagine stuff like rock climbing is always going to be hard for me. Running when I was in the military was always hard.
It depends. Where's your strength? Do you have really good, like, how many pull-ups can you do? Can you do a lot of pull-ups?
I don't remember the last time I did.
Okay. That's the main type of strength. The main strength is your lats, right? Like that's the main muscle you're using. You're using those biceps pulling muscles, also your legs a lot. It's just rock climbing. I'm realizing it's understanding what makes you feel stronger, right? Like you really need to, what I was doing at the beginning and what most guys do at the beginning is they're relying way too much on their upper body. Well, you got to be like moving your legs first a lot of times, so that because your legs are stronger than your upper body. So you're able, if your leg is in the right place, it can like hold you much longer than like one of your fucking arms, right?
Yeah.
But it feels less stable, right? So it's things like that. Also, just my forearms are getting stronger, to answer your question. It's like partially too, like I'm able to hold certain grips that I didn't used to be able to hold, right?
Which will come in really handy if date night doesn't go the way you want it to go.
Look, I'm just going to say this. A rock climbing girl has a good grip. But dumb.
On that note, welcome to the Property Paradise.
And now we're going to hurricanes. So that's enough about the rock climbing and Jonah getting lit.
That was the perfect segue. All right, y'all. So we're gonna talk about this thing. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, you guys know how we get down by now. If you don't, you fist to learn tonight. We're gonna watch a couple videos, and we're gonna comment on at least 2 videos, maybe a couple more that we've seen. And here's my goal, right? Jonah and I chatted about this a little bit earlier in the group chat today, just getting each other's perspectives on this. And I'm genuinely curious. What we're going to be sharing tonight, guys, I want to hear your perspectives on. I'm genuinely curious as to y'all's perspective on what the implications of these things might be. So that being said, let me start with the first video, which is a little bit more neutral than the second video. Second video gets a little bit more conversational, if you will. It will be interesting. Shout out to anybody who's in Florida right now. Have you ever been in a hurricane, Jonah?
Nope. Thank God.
You have not.
You?
I have 3, 4.
How bad is it? Is it crazy?
You know, it's interesting. So I've never been on the coast during a hurricane, which is a different thing. I don't want to try to compare the two. Okay. So if you listen to people talking about this hurricane that's going towards Florida, they're comparing it to Hurricane Charlie. Now, this is supposed to be worse than Charlie, but the closest comparison is Hurricane Charlie. And that happened in 2004. That was the year after.
Sorry, Jess. I'm sorry to
hear that. So Jess, what are you doing right now? Like, are y'all flying out? So Jess is in St. Pete. I don't think they can drive. They're going to have to fly. The roads have got to be packed right now. I don't even think driving from South Florida or that part of Florida is going to be realistic. So I was in 2004. Charlie came through. I was in Central Florida. Hurricanes really don't ever hit Central Florida because you're kind of in the middle. You're not on either coast. Oh, crap. So you're already out of Florida. Or are you out of Florida and you're just driving to Atlanta? Or Hurricane Andrew. So what happened was I moved there 2003. 2004, I moved there 2003. Yeah, right when it's shortly after I got out of the military. 2004, 3 hurricanes came back to back and hit Central Florida, which never happens. As a matter of fact, I would argue there hasn't really been a significant hurricane in Central Florida since then. The biggest ones have been like your chair fell over. Like it was just a little bit more windy than usual.
I would love for you to make a scale. Chair falls over, you're fucked. Like you got like.
Here's what's crazy, man. I remember when I was standing out in Charlie. We were in Central Florida, Orlando, Kissimmee area. And I remember walking outside, like right in the middle of the storm. The eye comes over and it's super calm, right? Which is kind of crazy. And it's just like a weird haze that was in the sky. Everything looked weird, and it wasn't like I was expecting that I was going to be getting like blown away, like rolling down the street. It wasn't like that. Like I could stand there, it was fine. And it almost felt less serious than it was. We had a propane tank at the house I lived at. And so I was like it was within like a little fenced area. So I was like trying to secure the fence because it was wood and it was collapsing. I'm like, well, I don't want this to explode.
Do you know what level it was?
I don't remember. Charlie was pretty big. I think it hit land as a 5 or a 4, maybe. I don't remember. But then obviously as it goes through land, it's supposed to diminish in strength. But it was just crazy. But here's what I'll tell you, man. After that, when you go outside and you drive through the neighborhood, it's crazy, dude. Like I saw full front yards where the full tree collapsed on top of the house. Jesus. But the whole ground, the whole front yard came up because the tree was connected to the roots. So the tree didn't break. It just lifted up the whole ground. Real crazy stuff.
I don't know why people own real estate in Florida. I just feel like you're just going to get fucked. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But
I don't know. I feel like it's so rare, right? Like once every 20 years, maybe. But then you have these situations where it's a little scary. I'll tell you this. We were without power for 8 days.
That's wild.
During that situation. Yeah, and it gets a little weird, right? Like you go to the gas station and nobody has anything. It was really, really interesting. I think they're projecting this to be drastically bigger than anything that Florida's ever seen. So
I've only dealt with earthquakes because I grew up in California, right? So like I've been in a ton of earthquakes, and earthquakes I don't think I've been in a big enough one. California hasn't had a huge one in a century, right? So they're always just like kind of scary, but that's the biggest natural disasters I ever dealt with.
What kind of earthquakes have you been in? Like, oh, the earth shook, like that was a little crazy.
The scariest ones, what makes it scary usually is the ones that like last longer than a minute. Because a minute with the earth shaking feels very long. It's like it starts getting to the point where it's like, okay, is this gonna end? What is happening? Because like most earthquakes are like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. You're like, all right, we're good, right? The only thing I can kind of think of, you ever been in a car crash?
Yeah.
The only kind of thing I can compare it to are those couple of seconds before you hit, but you know you're about to hit. I don't know how to describe. That's the feeling you have in an earthquake, where it's like, oh, fuck. Is this happening? Is this a bad one? Is this a good one? But it's like even longer because you have like a couple seconds in a car crash. In an earthquake, it's like continuing. Like, how bad is this about to get? Right? The worst one I ever had, I think, was like maybe it might have literally just been a minute and a half, but it felt like 10 minutes because you're like, things are falling over. It's still shaking. So it's scary, but like I've never been in it like with the pictures of like highways falling or anything like that. It's just stuff fell over my house. That's like,
I remember I was a little kid when they called it the big one, the one that happened. I want to say San Francisco, where like the bridge collapsed on each other. Yeah, I was a little kid.
That was in the 80s, I think.
Yeah,
so
I remember that. I remember seeing that on the news. I've always had this. I mean, I call it an unrealistic fear. Maybe it's not an unrealistic concern about being in California for that reason. Like I've always just had this like California is going to fall off the map type thing. Like Yvonne's always wanted to go, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want it to be there, and then it falls off the map, right? And I've said it jokingly, but
you would be fine in a house most likely. Every time though I'm going across the Bay Bridge, I'm like, I swear to fucking God, if it happens right now while I'm on this bridge, I'm donezoed. I don't know. Have you seen the Bay Bridge? Do you know how tall it is?
No.
It's like a good I don't know, dude. Like I know we're getting completely off topic. I need to just show you a photo because I don't know the actual hold on. But like let me just show you this. Like that's the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't know why. Like that's how tall it is, right? Like I don't know if that really gives you a perspective. It's pretty fucking tall. It's probably like the size of, it's probably like 6, 7, 8 stories high above the water. So just imagine, and also this one's wild. This is the older part. This is the section that's more like the fall. This part is like this part of the bridge is like probably like 80 years old. How it works is going into the city is on top, going out of the city is on bottom. So if I'm on the bottom, especially, I'm like, bro, I'm just like completely boned. I'm going to get like crushed from the top. Like every time I go across the bridge, I have that like my hair goes up a little bit because of that. But like,
I don't blame you for that.
But you realize that's incredibly rare too. I've never been in one that's even close to being bad.
have you seen the map that's been going on recently? The new American map that's been going around recently?
No, what is up?
So I'll pull this up. So it's a map from some guy from the 80s. He had like a vision or something like that. Don't quote me on that.
Richard says it's 525 feet tall. I don't know if that helps you.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like 6 stories helps better.
The highest I've jumped is 3 stories into water. And I only know that because it was a barge in the Navy.
What do you mean? You jumped off it? What do you mean by jumped?
A long story. Like there was a barge and I jumped off the top into the water.
Oh, wow. That's high.
Yeah.
3 stories? Damn. All right.
It was a whole situation. Somebody else was in the water. It was a whole thing. So I had to jump in. And it was crazy because that water was freezing and I had never been in that cold of water that suddenly. So I'm trying to help this dude who's probably nearly a foot taller than me. The guy was like 6'5", right?
Was this when you were in the military?
Yeah. And I'm trying to pull him out. He was like flailing. Guy weighed 325 and I'm like about this size. And I'm like trying to pull him out and I'm like, I'm getting weaker by the second. Like this is not
that's rough.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a very interesting situation. I ended up having another one of the safety boats pulled up and I had to get him out. I had to stick my arm in the exhaust and let him stand on my arm to get out because no one could lift him up because he was so, dude, it was crazy. I had like a big old bruise. It was a crazy thing. But he got out. He was cool. So yeah. So here is this picture, right? So apparently I don't know why this is circulating. Again, I saw this like 2 days ago. And this is from the 90s. And I don't know exactly the backstory. If somebody knows the backstory, feel free to share it. But I think this guy had like a vision or something like that. So this is in Forbes. And this is the new map. So supposedly, it's crazy, right? Like, so supposedly, I think this is the New Madrid Fault, right? The New Madrid Fault that goes right through, or is it the San Andreas Fault?
San Andreas and the San Bernardino, I think.
Okay. So apparently, the reason why it's being tossed around right now, and I don't know the details on this, but apparently the concerns about, I believe it's the San Andreas Fault, actually like being this close on the verge of blowing in a globally historic fashion is like any day now. And from what I've heard, that is a big part of the reason why almost every single solitary major insurance provider pulled out of California in the last year.
It's that and fires. The two together is just too much. It's also why property insurance is a bitch in Florida, right?
Maybe.
Like because of the hurricanes.
But really interesting. Right?
I don't know if it would be. I don't know if that much of the West would get covered, but I think that's aggressive. I think more of Florida would be covered because Florida's like, I think certain parts are below sea level, right? Or a decent amount of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, what's interesting is all of a sudden there's this new land right here, supposedly, which I don't know what that's about. Like, again, I don't know the whole backstory in this thing. I just saw this.
That's
like
Atlantis, dude. How do you haven't heard of Atlantis, bro?
Yeah, but I feel like
this
that
guy, dude. You're the conspiracy guy, and you don't know about Atlantis,
Triangle, bro. Have you been to Atlantis, bro? Don't until you go. You can't. You're not.
Okay.
All right, let's guys. Let's watch this video. We're gonna share this one. We're gonna share a second one. I want to hear everybody's thoughts, specifically on the second one. But let's listen to this one as well. We're not watching this whole thing. We're gonna watch the first handful of minutes, and kind of just give you guys a lay of the land of what's going on out there. What's going on, Robert? Share tab audio.
Florida. We're about to get hit. We just got hit last week. Helene. 2 million people in surrounding areas, I think, don't have any power. Let me give you some stats here that I have. 2 million don't have a power. 150,000 people have applied for FEMA assistance, if I'm not mistaken. 250,000 people still don't have any power. 2 million went out, but 250,000 people haven't had it for about a week. 400-mile radius was the hurricane. The closest one we had to this one was Katrina. that was also 400-mile in radius. You look at the pictures, it just doesn't look right with what happened. And the criticism that's coming with FEMA while we're going through this is that they're not doing anything about it. By the way, only 2% of the houses that were impacted by the Hurricane Helene have homeowners insurance. I'm sorry, not homeowners, have flood insurance. Only 2%. You know what that means? You have a $300,000 house, gone. And you don't have the money. It's wiped out. And FEMA's giving them what? $750. You know, I thought it was $750 per person in the house. It's $750 per household.
Like
if you live in a house with 6 people, it's just $750. Okay, while this is taking place. However, as if that wasn't bad enough already, now you got Hurricane Milton on its way. And I know you've done a couple skits that's funny and all this other stuff. There's nothing funny about this. This is now Cat 5, and it's at a point. By the way, these are people leaving Tampa. They're literally leaving Tampa. This is a good picture. I saw pictures with traffic that was, I mean, it was horrible. And Rob, if you can pull up the mayor of Tampa, what she just said in an interview yesterday with CNN, if you can pull that up, she's been interviewed and she's being asked, hey, you know, how bad is it? Look what she says. She doesn't flinch. Listen to this.
It's halfway through this.
This is
it's right
literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Wow.
Jeez.
Wow. I mean, that is an incredibly blunt message. And I know you have a lot of experience dealing with these storms. You don't say something like that lightly, Mayor.
She tries to make it political.
I've never said that. And 10 to 12 foot surge. I mean, if this takes a jog to the south, that's going to save us from the storm surge. But it stays on the track that it's projected to be on right now. Or if it goes a bit north, would be even worse. Some of the predictions are saying that Pinellas County, to the south of us, the entire county is going to be underwater. So this is something that I have never seen in my life. And I can tell you that.
So she asked her question and says, so what do you think about all this stuff with political, that they're not doing this and Kamala's not doing this? You know what the lady says? I actually like what she said. She says, no, that is not true. I'm in communication with the president, and our governor DeSantis has been very active on this, been helping us out. Rob, play the exchange with Kamala, what she says about DeSantis and how DeSantis responds, because I think there's a feud going on here between the two of them. Go ahead, Rob.
Governor DeSantis, NBC is reporting Governor DeSantis is ignoring your calls on hurricanes, resources, and help. How does that hurt the situation here?
You know, moments of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone who calls themselves a leader says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first. People are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games with this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of
Okay. So she's saying it's selfish. It's about political gamesmanship. Do you have one from Ron DeSantis, Rob? Go ahead and play this clip.
And we've been laser focused on leveraging all resources available, including from the federal government. And I've been in touch with both FEMA and the president, as well as marshaling all our state agencies and working to support our local communities. And so for Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional. She has no role in this. In fact, she's been vice president for 3.5 years. I've dealt with a number of storms under this administration. She has never contributed anything to any of these efforts. And so what I think is selfish is her trying to blunder into this. No. And here's the thing. She has no role. No, she has no role in this process. I'm in contact with the president of the United States. I'm in contact with FEMA director. I'm obviously managing all our state agencies. We're supporting all our local government. And I will say this, I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm, and she's doing that just because of her campaign. She's trying to get some type of an edge. She knows she's doing poorly, and so she's playing these political games. I don't have time for political games. Right. I've got peoples whose lives are on the line. I've got peoples whose homes and their possessions are on the line, and we are focused 100% on that mission. I'm not worried about playing her political
You
games.
can
And
pause it
so
right there.
she is
By
being.
the way, he's the reason why we live in Florida right now.
Yep.
Why at least I'm in Florida right now. He's the reason, because this guy gets stuff done. Period.
Yep.
If there's one thing about him, he may not be charismatic or charming or good on interviews or marketing, or even doesn't like people. Like, he doesn't like doing interviews. He just wants to be. He's a homebody with his
He's
wife
not
and kids.
presidential.
He's not.
Yeah.
He's not.
Did you want to listen to theirs, or did you? I was gonna put in our own analysis after that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We can go ahead and stop this one here.
Because come on, we're better than PPD. Come on, let's be real.
Shout out to PPD. If you guys do not follow him, go follow him, since we're stealing his content. No, we're borrowing his content for the sake of resharing his value to the marketplace.
Yeah. What do you think of that? What's your response to just the whole thing about the hurricanes, the whole thing between the two feuding? Do you feel one is more right than the other? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think that's just that's a stalemate conversation, right? Like, ultimately, who cares? I mean, I think that if I had to say who's making a more valid point, I'm definitely giving it to DeSantis, because she's the one out here talking about politicizing. Ain't nobody was talking about politicizing anything until you brought it up. So clearly you're the one politicizing it. DeSantis, I know nothing about the backstory here. I don't know anything about it. But if DeSantis is correct in what he's saying, and in the last 3.5 years, in her capacity as vice president, Kamala Harris has not done anything to reach out during a natural disaster in the state of Florida, and then now she decides to do it as a candidate, that's by definition political. That's all she's doing. She's trying to look good for her candidacy. And that's fine. Do what you got to do. I'm not mad at that necessarily, but don't try to gaslight him and make it look like he's the one politicizing it when you're very obviously the one politicizing it. If dude ain't got time to call you back, I'm not mad at him, bro. I'm doing all this other stuff. You don't even have an official capacity to help me here. You just trying to make yourself look good. I'm busy trying to make sure the people in my state are okay. I feel like he's got a lot on his plate right now to have to be dealing with this. I feel like that's almost borderline tactless, if not actually tactless, on her side, unless she specifically offered aid that he refused, which obviously didn't happen.
Yeah, like I actually agree with you on this. Like, I'm pretty sure the vice president doesn't have anything to do with emergencies. I could be wrong, right? But I am pretty sure that it's actually like governor, president, FEMA director. Like, I think he's right there. And her calling him, if she can't actually help at all and doesn't have any power to help, is not helping, right? Like, in the same way that, like, you have to get out of the way when, like, things are being done either in a military operation or just when you're trying to get anything done in business. Like, if someone's like getting in the way and they're doing stuff that's not their role, it fucks up the whole operation. So I'm actually leaning more towards Ron DeSantis too, of like, look, like, we gotta get shit done. I'm talking to the president, right? I'm not trying to make this political. Like, I'm talking to the man who I need to be talking to. It's not like I have something against Joe Biden, right? Like, if he was ignoring the entire executive branch, I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of lean towards him too.
What do you think about just the overall, like, let's talk about this. I think there's a very interesting, and I want to touch on this for a second, because I think once we go into this second video, it's going to take us into a little bit of a different direction. There is a lot to be said for how these recent storms have been handled. And there's a lot of concerns about how they've been handled. What's your take on this, right? Because obviously this is going to your side. This is not a political candidacy question. This is a sitting administration question. There have been natural disasters that have taken place in recent times. We have another one that's on the horizon. Helene was devastating in countless ways. And I think there's still people that they're trying to find bodies for, right? And they haven't even begun to finish.
They just had? What's the one there?
The one that just happened. The one that just happened. The one that's happening now is Milton.
Okay.
Right? So Helene happened. It was extremely bad. There's a lot of tough stuff that's happening surrounding that. And the current administration's doing nothing, right? And then they did this, and I'm calling this an insulting offer of $750 a household, which, when we're sending billions of dollars overseas to other countries, but you can't support people inside of the United States, they've turned down support. They've turned away helicopters trying to bring resources. The FCC literally refused Elon Musk's helicopters as well, trying to bring internet up there so people can actually have communications to the mountains where they were. There's been so many different things that have been going on. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I mean, I don't know much about emergency funding, right? Like my captain says Republicans blocked FEMA funding. I don't know if that's true or not. But there's a certain point where it's like, dude, like this is the problem with politics overall, is when people are getting lost in the sauce and not seeing like the bigger picture. This is the biggest thing in politics, is like, okay, there are certain things we should be able to agree on, right? Hurricane happening in Florida. They need funding, right? Like $750 is insulting, right? I also remember like Donald Trump threatening to, like, I think this is both sides is what I'm saying. It's like, I remember Donald Trump like threatening not to give any aid to California because while he was giving plenty of aid to Florida, right? When California was dealing with the fires and Florida was dealing with the hurricanes, right? So it's an issue politically where it's like, we got to stop looking at who you're voting for. When there's an emergency, you do everything you can to help out, whether it's a Republican state, Democratic state, we got to just help everyone out, right? So yeah, it's not good. I don't have any more thoughts than that, really. It's like, just do everything you can to help, right?
Yeah, I think this is where people got to stop being fucking plebs. And I'm sorry, I don't know how else to say this. And get out of your little games and just start being normal people, right? Like, this isn't a left. I agree with you 100%, right? And for those of you guys who know, I'm kind of like a neutral political guy. It seems like I've become like this big right-wing guy, and according to today's standards, I don't care.
You're not neutral. You're above it all, dude. You're not even. You're just. You're the only one not on the spectrum.
I'm not. I'm not even gonna argue with that. I'm gonna take that as a whole unbiased compliment from you.
No, it's a compliment. It's a hilarious compliment.
But, you know, Jonah's made his stance and we have our disagreements with that, and that's fine. But what I love about what you just said, bro, which is one of the reasons I love having these conversations with you, is you're like, bro, at some point, quit with the politics. Like, at some point, stop. Just freaking stop. And let's just care about each other, our fellow man, our neighbors, human beings, right? And so, like, we talk about this, like, this is the default. And I don't know, Cap, I don't know what your thoughts are in this whole entire thing. But for me, this is irrelevant. Because what I know for a fact, without a shadow of a doubt, if the president wanted to make an executive order and provide funding, he could, right? He could. You cannot tell me that there is, I don't care. I don't know anything about FEMA. I don't know anything about funding allocations. What I do believe, without any equivocation, is that if a sitting president wanted to say, I am going to provide aid, we're going to do it by X. There's got to be a way to figure that out. Now, again, maybe.
Can I clarify that? I don't think he can just throw money at a problem, but he could, for instance, be like, this is enough of an emergency. We're using the military. And then by that, I think through that, he can start just increasing the funding where it's enough of an emergency where he's like, dude, we're using the military, we're using military funds. This is a defense issue because we're losing people. Right. So,
and here's the thing, right?
I think that's technically what happened.
Maybe, right? And here's the thing, like, to your point, I'm going to acknowledge my lack of knowledge on these particular topics. Real Action says that, you know, here's a serious question: if the people pushing global warming movement do not have emergency funding on the top of the list for Americans, right? Jonah and I touched on this a little bit earlier. Here's an argument for the liberal side of things. If the liberal side, the left, is trying to push for funding towards something that the right's blocking, well, then they have a good scapegoat in that the right's not letting them prepare. Right. And if that, I don't know the details behind that, I can't provide a solid argument to that. Here's what I know. We've sent, billions upon billions of dollars in funding to people in the Ukraine.
I believe I think it's like 150 billion, something like that. It's a lot of money.
$150 billion, right? You can confirm that. You're looking that up.
I'm gonna look it up right now. Which money did we?
So we're well into the billions of dollars, and you can call me ignorant. You can call me naive. You can say, oh, it's something different. It's in a different pocket. I can't pay for that restaurant bill because it's in my left pocket, not my right pocket. Do you have an actual number?
We have sent 60 billion, and then apparently as of May 10th, 2024, Congress approved nearly 175 billion.
Correct.
This is
and I believe that was in days.
This is the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. So I don't.
And
that sounds like a conservative think tank to me, but whatever. I'm
to
trying
my
to figure it out.
knowledge, to my knowledge, Jonah, that was within days of offering the people affected by Hurricane Helene $750.
That
Sorry.
article was May 10th. So
Oh,
I
was
don't know
it?
if it was that soon. Yeah. The article
Okay.
I just
Okay.
yeah.
So we're up to 100 and something billion dollars, $750.
So they
It just
approved
doesn't-
175. We've sent 61 so far, just to be completely accurate.
And what I don't know what $750 per household turns out to be. My guess is it's far less than $100 billion.
$1 trillion.
$1 trillion. And this is, I think this is the question, right? And this is where we have to, as Americans, right? And here's one thing that I believe has been intentionally done in the last generation, at the very least effectively done in this last generation, is this idea of removing the pride of being an American. That has been effectively removed from the masses. People used to be proud to be an American. There's a whole song about it because this was a general accepted feeling. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be from the country. Most countries, the people of those countries are extremely proud to be from those countries, right? Pride and patriotism is a very, very common thing internationally. It is becoming less and less common in the United States. And I think that in and of itself is an interesting conversation.
Political is the issue. That's the issue. It used to not be political, I feel like, to love America. Now I feel like it's a political thing, right?
And that's, I think,
where it's like loving America has turned, because like this is completely the liberal side, right? Like this is a problem way more for liberals than Republicans. Most Republicans love America. Like I think the liberals don't. I think they just forget that like California is also America, right? Yeah. I think they forget like literally their entire lives are based on America. Like I just don't think they get it. I think it's just become a political issue. It's become associated, like loving America has become associated with policies that liberals don't like, which is a problem. It shouldn't be related to any policies. It should just be related to loving this place.
And honestly, I agree with that. And I think that's kind of why I said when I first started that I believe this is intentional. I think the powers that be know that. I think they're intentionally trying to reduce the amount of patriotism in this country. And I think they're using things like that. They're making loving your country a divisive topic, and they're succeeding. And now the question you would ask is, why would they want to do that? It's a different conversation. But I think they've done a good job at doing that. So what happens is now we're in this situation where I think people are becoming so desensitized to human life because everything has become a polarizing topic that people are actually becoming cold to the need for help. And it's really, really sad because I think we're getting to this brink, and maybe in some situations over this brink, where people actually don't care anymore if people die. I genuinely can see us in the not too distant future, maybe even now, at a point where as a society, if there was a tragedy in a state, people would be okay with the countless deaths because, oh, well, that's just one less state to vote against the Democrats. And it's just, and I think we're here though, man. I agree with you. I hope not. I think we're here. You know what I mean? The fact that as many people, and we're talking about one person, so I understand that it's a little bit different. But how many people celebrated Trump getting assassination attempts twice? How many people made jokes about, man, I wish the guy would have been a better shooter. I wish he wouldn't have missed. Right? I think the existence of those callous jokes are representative of a much deeper seated issue that exists. And I think it's been that discord.
I'm more conflicted on than like a hurricane to like I'm not saying like I'm not for political violence in America. I think it's really bad. I don't care whether Donald Trump he is not Hitler. He's not as bad as Hitler, so you can't assassinate him, right? He's not even close, right? I think he is a dictator, and we still need to get to that. But he's not Hitler. There's dictators that are much less than Hitler, right? So the issue really is that with Trump, it's like, I don't think it's good. I think it's bad. I think anyone who's callous about Floridians, who are, I think, much more innocent on anything that's happening in this country. I think Trump is responsible for more things that are happening in this country, good and bad, right? Not saying it's okay at all. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think I'm a little bit more optimistic than you. Like, I think most people seriously, with like you really push them, would be like, no, I don't want Floridians to die, even if they're Republicans. I still have faith.
I have hope. I don't know that I have faith as much as I have hope in that. I think people are going to get colder and colder. Cap, I think they exist on both sides, and I'm against all of them. Like, I don't care who you vote for, bro. Like, go and paint your house in blue and like get yourself a Kamala mask and like wear her t-shirt and get little Kamala Harris underwear and go crazy and stand at the voting booth. Jamarco?
Cut that. That's the next clip. Give no context to that.
But no, no context. Just do it. But yeah, man, like, it's funny because I think if you go crazy, do that. Might I think you're silly in your decision? Maybe, but who cares? Like, who cares? You're still a human being who has a right to choose what you want to choose. And as a human being, as much as I may agree or disagree with your choice, I need to respect the fact that you have the right to make that choice. Hopefully, we can have a dialogue like Jonah and I have attempted, to do, and I think successfully with its bumps. You should be able to have a dialogue on the topics that you disagree about. But regardless of the end of that conversation, you should be able to part and say, you know what, I respect your right to make a decision. I disagree with you. I don't understand why you're making that decision, but I respect your right to make it, and then go the other way, right? But I shouldn't see somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire and then ask them who they're voting for before I decide whether or not I'm going to help them change that flat. That's silly. But it is a reality in the world that we're living in. And I genuinely do think that we are this close, if not there in some situations, Jonah, where people will actually be okay with people suffering or even passing away simply because they disagree with them. I think we're right there in society. And I think that
I have more faith. I think we're in a better place than you might think. I
hope.
I think I have more faith. I don't have any evidence for it, but I just have more faith that more people are good, don't actually want other people to die. Trump's different. I think a lot of people would like I'm not gonna lie, like some of my family and friends, almost all of them said they didn't want Trump assassinated, but they were like, if he died peacefully in his bed, that would just be objectively better for the country, right? And I'm like, I'm torn about how I feel about that, right? Like, I don't want political violence, but also he shouldn't, I do believe his policies are terrible for the country, but I also believe that in the end, people have to vote and make their choice. Like, you got to win the intellectual argument. You can't win it by just someone dying.
And that's it, right? I think that the intellectual argument has been removed from the table, and it's been replaced with an emotional one. And I think that part's been intentional. Jamarco's shared this clip here, and it was somebody, I don't know, Gianmarco, you can share the guy's name. He was somebody that was big. I think it was the Marxist movement, socialism, something like that. And basically he was basically saying the socialism movement will take over the country and win without even firing a bullet. And the interviewer was like, now this is back in the 60s, right? 70s, 60s. And he says, how do you know? Like, what makes you say that? He said, we're already doing it. Our professors are already in your colleges. We're already teaching your students. We're teaching your kids. They're going to teach their kids. And in less than 2 or 3 generations, the whole country is going to be completely turns against America's current morals and standards and be believing socialist morals. And you guys will be fighting for us. We already have the plan in place. He's literally in a public interview saying this. And here we sit, not too many years later, And everything that he said has come to pass. And it's exactly what he said was going to happen. And so I think that's what's happened, bro. I think these things are plans that have been taking place for a very, very long time. And what we're watching is not just a reaction to a policy. We're watching the manifestation of a plan that was laid generations ago, before most of the people on this, many of the people watching this podcast were even alive. And we've been so convincingly, and I'm sorry I say this a lot, played, that we're not even asking questions. We actually think that this is a policy issue. We actually think that this is an aligning with my values issue. No, it's not. This is a plan that's been around for way longer than us, that's playing out in our faces, and we don't even recognize it. But we are pandering to the beat that they put out for us. And the people who are crazy enough, air quotes around crazy, to question that and say, but hold on, some of this doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Like we were talking about this morning, Jonah. Why are the liberals out here talking about climate change, but then blocking all of the technology that could actually change the climate, right? At some point, when do you start realizing that the things that you're pandering for don't actually align with your actions? The same Democrats that are pushing for equality today were the exact same Democrats that were saying marriage was between a man and a woman a couple of terms ago. Right? At some point, when do we stop giving the benefit of the doubt and say they just changed their minds and start asking, well, maybe you're not changing your mind every single solitary political cycle, and you're actually just pandering to the agenda at hand. And I think that's what we're experiencing, moreover. And the things that we're talking about right now are just the things that they're using to distract us from what's really going on. And I think those are the questions that we really need to be asking, but nobody even knows to ask them.
Here's my opinion on what you just said, right? We can watch the video too, and I'll have more to respond to that specific about the socialism one, because I have an interesting opinion that I'm curious your opinion on, but we'll watch the video first. But what you said that I'm curious about, I'm just curious how you view politicians, because here's how I view politicians. I think politicians reflect whatever the hell voters think, right? Generally, right? I agree with you. I think most might have certain core beliefs, and then most of them are just pandering to whatever voters want, right? So when you have all those clips of like Hillary Clinton being like marriage is between a man and a woman, Obama saying marriage is between a man and a woman, you know, then the polls change, the American voters change, and then they're like, fuck it, let's go for it, right? It's because you're right. In the end, they want to get power, right? The only difference that I disagree with you and me is I just feel like the only difference so far that I've noticed is I just feel like Trump's in the same boat. Like that's the that's been the most interesting thing in our conversations is like, I don't know why we're giving Trump the benefit of the doubt. He seems exactly the same to me either way. You could find certain clips of him, for instance. I'm pretty sure he used to be pro-choice before he got into politics, right? I might be wrong about that, but I feel like I remember him talking, being like, yeah, I'm pro-choice when he was like a businessman in New York City, right? Now he's pro-life, right? Because he wants to win, right? That's what politicians do. That's my only disagreement with you. That's the only thing that I am curious about, like sometimes with you. And like, why are we giving him so much benefit of the doubt versus, Kamala or anybody else?
Well, I think it goes back to the conversation we had, what was it, last week when we talked about how we come to the decisions that we come to? Mm-hmm. I think it comes back to that. It's just basic deductive reasoning. So let's use your point. Okay, Trump let's just use abortion as a topic. I don't know that he's overwhelmingly pro-abortion, right? I think he's pro-abortion to the extent that he deems it responsible. I think that's evidenced by the fact that everybody says he's trying to steal women's rights. So in and of itself, that kind of proves that he's not clearly pro-abortion. I don't know that he changed his stance on that much. I genuinely, and I say that as a statement, I don't know. But I think at the same time, there is a fair question to say, well, okay, you make a point. His party's saying this is a topic, pick your battles. Maybe I need to just kind of soften my opinion on this topic, sound a little bit more neutral than I really am, because it doesn't make sense for me to go into that. Now, I think there's a real gray area where you're going into completely switching your position, but making it sound like you're a little bit more neutral than you are. Like, I think there's a place for that in politics. I think that's different than saying there's no way men and women should be married. 100% men and women should be married. And then doing that clearly every single election cycle. I think that's different. But here's the thing, bro. Let's just use this as an example. And we talked about this before. We pulled up the screenshots. We substantiated this as evidence. So we'll just speak as if it's true. And we'll put an asterisk on it. But here's, if we wanted to just use basic deductive reasoning, okay, why do I think Trump's not a part of that system? Well, let me say this. One thing we know for a fact that we can prove to be true is that the media is definitely for the left and definitely against Trump. Can we at least agree with that? As a general rule, with the exception of Fox.
I think they're anti-Trump, which is basically being against the right. They're more pro-establishment in the end. Like
there you go.
They're more pro-establishment, including Republicans.
And right. that right there is exactly my point. Let's call it establishment for the lack of a better word. They're pro-establishment.
Sure.
If you want proof whether or not someone's a part of the Cool Club, see what the Cool Club says about them. The Cool Club has done everything in their power to destroy Donald Trump since the second he declared his candidacy for 2016. Every single time. And when I say the establishment, Google and all of the things that they own, right? All of the major banks, all of the major funding organizations, all of the major media stations. So if we think about it, well, what are the most powerful institutions in our country, right? Have you ever read the book, The Seven Mountains?
No.
It's an interesting book. You should check it out. It's a faith-based book, but it's still a cool concept nonetheless. It talks about the seven mountains that kind of run the world. In any case, but let's just look at the big things that run the country, right? Banking, finance, right? Would we agree that that's a big thing that runs the country? Anything finance related, right? Financial institutions. Okay, cool. Let's talk about news media. Okay, that's another thing that has a huge impact in our country. Social influence, celebrity media, another huge one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the political stuff. You have all the different things. Well, what you start noticing is, Jonah, every single one of them were almost weaponized against Trump overnight. And it's into the extent that it's a weird way. Oprah and Donald Trump were friends. We have zero evidence of them ever having a falling out. Oprah interviewed Trump about being president. There was hints that if he ever ran for president, Oprah would be his running mate. They were homies.
She wrote him a letter, no?
And now all of a sudden she hates him and she thinks he's a threat to society? When did that change?
Well, okay, can I ask you a question?
Well, to wrap this point, and then we'll say that. Here's my point. When you look at this, people who used to be his friends immediately became his enemy. News that used to speak to him in high regard now said that he's racist and he's all of these threat and horrible things. He's going to cause a nuclear war. You can't cause him to do this. Every mainstream celebrity managed to all have the same opinion. At what point do you start realizing the establishment, the group of cool kids that have all of the biggest companies in the country, that fund all of the biggest institutions in the country, that run all of the major news media and popular culture, all weaponized against this guy when many of them used to be his friends? That's how I know he's not a part of the same team. Because if he was, why go this hard against him?
So let me just ask you a question, and you just tell me if you think this is possible, right? Because this is what I think is happening. I totally agree with you. I don't think the establishment likes Donald Trump, right? Totally agree with you, 100%, right? My question, though, is could he, even if he's completely against the establishment, is there a possibility, because this is what I think he's doing, right? And I think it's what most politicians do, and I personally don't think it's establishment versus anti-establishment. I think this is a humanity thing, is that humans, that the person who wants to be president of the United States, this is just like a problem with all of them, they want power. They want their ego boosted. They want to control things. It's kind of in the job of being the president of the United States. That's your assumption. That's one of the things, is you're the big fucking honcho. You're the biggest, you are literally the most important person in the most powerful country in the entire world. You have the most power of any human being on earth, by far, right?
Okay.
I think that Trump is in the same boat as any politician, in the sense that he will say things in order to become powerful, in order to win. right? I think he knows he's anti-establishment, and the reason he's not going pro-establishment is because he knows he can win that way, right?
No, but that doesn't make any sense. That's been his biggest Achilles heel. Like, let's just say arguably.
So. Right? Dude, I would say it's his biggest strength, and in some ways his biggest weakness, right?
They're trying to put a nearly 80-year-old man in prison for things that are far less dangerous than Hillary Clinton was proven guilty of, right? Campaign finance laws. He is literally on trial for campaign finance issues to the extent of $140,000. Hillary Clinton was found guilty unequivocally for, I believe it was $6 million of campaign finance mismanagement. Never even went to court.
Let's stick to this one topic, right? I'm talking about the motivations of the politicians. I agree with you that the establishment is against Donald Trump. The only thing I'd ask you to question, and I think we should stop about Trump. This is just a question for you, honestly, later, is just think about, like, do you really feel like Trump could be doing this because he wants power, just like any other politician, right?
No.
Even if he's okay. I would say think about that question, because I think there's a lot of evidence to say he's the same, right? Just because he says the things that make people like him, his base, right? That's he has like 40% of the country, or 45 or whatever.
Here's the thing, bro. Like, I feel like you're jumping to a conclusion and asking questions to substantiate a perspective that you yourself, if you thought it through, you'd realize it doesn't carry a lot of weight, right? Because first of all, the initial question that you asked me is, how do I believe that Trump's not a part of that same team? Well, then later then I misunderstood the question. I thought the initial question was, you said, how do you not understand that Trump was literally a part of that same team, that he's in on it like the rest of them?
My original question was, like, how do you know that Trump isn't acting like a politician like everyone else, as in he's not saying things in order to get votes? That's what I meant. Not that he's not. I misunderstood
the question.
Yeah,
I misunderstood your question. So that was me responding to the thought that you were assuming that he's on the same team with the rest of them. He's in on it like the rest of them. I don't think he is at all. I think he's on the opposite team. I think he is the one outlier. Now, I could be wrong. To be clear, let me be really clear. I do not know Donald Trump. I've never had a conversation with this dude face to face. So I could be wrong. He might be playing as just like the rest of everybody and be doing his own thing. I just think that everything about the scenario.
Just pause 5 seconds.
Sure.
What the fuck does that mean, Gianmarco? So can that be a biased, misleading, untruth fact? I have no what that means.
Here's the thing. No. We're going to leave that up for the rest of the podcast. This is the question today, yo. I'm going to need you guys to figure this out. First person that gets an answer gets a gift card to Chili's.
I love you, Gianmarco, but what the hell does that mean?
Best answer to this question gets a Chili's gift card for some baby back ribs.
Sorry, unless like someone else said that. I just had sorry to completely derail, but like I saw that, I'm like, Gianmarco, what?
In fairness, that does sound like some Kamala videos that I've seen. I'm sorry, I had to take it. Here's the thing, bro. Like,
point, and then after this, let's move on.
I just think that, like, when you ask the question, is he on the same team? I just think there's like, it's so obvious that this is why I think this guy actually does, like, he is not on that team. He is everything against that team. And that's why when he said yes, that whole team, what they don't realize, if we're really objective, Jonah, here's what we saw here. We saw how deep the reach of the establishment really goes. Because look how far. We never had any reason to know how much they actually controlled. Not really. Trump and Trump's existence has done a great job of actually forcing them to expose how much reach they actually have. They control social media platforms. All of the social media platforms were controlled.
Twitter, baby. Elon Musk out there doing
they were illegally. The FBI was threatening and intimidating private companies or public companies to manipulate and coerce the masses to believe a specific agenda. That is freaking scary, bro. That in and of itself, by itself, should make you pause and think, holy crap, how far do the tentacles of the establishment really go that they're able to influence, manipulate, and threaten even private or publicly traded companies to completely manipulate the masses to their agenda? And they got caught. Why? Because one random outlier. To your point about Trump wanting power, I would argue that from a guy who was a billionaire, largely, not entirely, largely respected globally, historically almost respected. This guy would have gone down in history as one of the greatest businessmen to ever do it. In the same breath of books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Art of the Deal is very similar of like life-changing. This is what, like, this guy had his outliers, but had Trump never gotten into politics, this guy had a very good reputation. Power? What more power did the dude need? Why would you want to go and be able to negotiate?
I don't know. My personal opinion, billionaire's nothing even close to president in terms of power. But if you want to wrap up your point, sorry to interrupt, I'm down with it, and then we should watch this video and get back to hurricanes.
Yeah.
We always
So
talk about Trump.
my simple summary is that I just think that he had more. He's lost more than he's gained in the attacks and just the negative fights, battles that he's had to take on. He didn't have to take on before. That being said, so let's watch this video. All right, guys. Yeah. So here's a different perspective on it.
There's a certain point where we need to talk about other shit, you know.
Yeah, well, we're gonna finish up talking about him because the election's coming. So he's either gonna be in there or he's not. We got to do the dictator one maybe next week. That being said, guys, I want your opinion on this. I am actually interested.
Captain, I just want to say I'm so glad there's a liberal in here. It's great. I love it. He's actually liberal. I think I was thinking of someone completely different who called me a libtard and a Marxist.
I mean, it's cool that actually we have someone to bring down the collective IQ of
this guy, dude. This guy.
My bad, Cat. My bad, bro.
You don't want to go into the research on IQs between liberals and and conservatives. I'm pretty sure liberals are higher because we have like fucking most professors and shit who have super high IQs.
And there's an argument for that. You might be right. I don't know. So here, guys, I really, really am interested in your guys' thoughts on this. We're coming into this neutral. We've chatted about this a little bit. I probably slant a little bit to one side more than Jonah does on this. That's to be expected. That's fine. But I don't have any real conclusive opinions on this. I'm going to share. We're going to watch a video with you guys a little bit longer. We'll probably talk in chat as we watch this video. But I'm really, really interested in hearing your guys' opinions on this topic. It's going to be fun. Let's check it out. Share screen.
There should also be like the subtitle to everything.
Google it.
Fucking Google it.
Google that shit. Did I tell you about the cop that told me that?
No, what?
Nah, it's a funny story. A 20-second story. So it's a sad story, but that had a funny quip to it. Driving back one Thanksgiving night, it's like 4 years ago, right? And where I live is like at the edge of the city. So there's one street that brings you up here. So it's late. It's the night before Thanksgiving. I went to get like last minute stuff. Me and Yvonne have always gone crazy at Thanksgiving. Like we'll cook a 74-course meal for just the two of us, even if nobody eats. Yeah, we go crazy. So I was coming back with some last things that she needed. This was again like 4 years ago. And I pull up. And I'm getting ready to turn up to come to the house, the only road to get here, and there's a bunch of cops. It's blocked. Can't get up. And I'm like, I turn around and go a different way. It's blocked that way. And I'm like, I can't. How am I supposed to get home? So I finally pull up, and I see a cop walk like across the four-way intersection. And he walks over to me. He's like, hey, bro, like you got to go around. There was a really bad accident. And it was sad. It looked like it was like apparently a high school kid died, like right there the night before Thanksgiving. You saw his mom every single day for like probably 2 or 3 years. It was really, really sad. There's still candles out there. In any case, so prayers to the family. I'm out there and I'm like, the guy comes over and he's like, hey man, it was an accident. You're gonna have to figure out how to get home. I'm like, bro, there's literally only one road. Like, how am I supposed to get back if you guys, this is gonna be here and you know, we don't even know for how long. And out of the corner, out of nowhere, I hear a cop from like 20 yards away. I don't know how he had his little bionic Cholo ears, you know, Officer Cholo ears hearing me. But I'm like, bro, how am I supposed to get around? There's like no other way. And all I hear from the background is, Google that shit. That's how it sounded, just like that, like from a distance. Google that
So
shit.
weird and funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was it. So from now on, every time somebody says Google it, all I hear is Google that shit. Because that's how they're talking, even the cop. So there you go. There's my funny quip. All right, guys, tell us your opinion on this video. Let's play it out. Shout out to the Redacted podcast for allowing us to use.
I thought we were watching the first one you showed me. I'm down to watch. This one's way better. I thought you were just going to show me the one where it was like it was literally just the plane. And then like it was like it was like over the weekend you sent it. It was like just the plane. And then
that. Yeah, I don't even remember that. Are you cool with this one? I thought this is way better.
This one's way better. Watch it.
Okay, we'll watch this one. Well, watch this one. Give us your thoughts, guys. Shout out to Redacted. Go and follow them. They got like 2.5 million subscribers. They do this. These guys are both former journalists that got tired of unanswered questions, and so they started asking them, and now they report on this.
Well, hey, Alexa, can you tell me about Hurricane Milton? Yeah, and Alexa will tell you about Hurricane Milton in the past tense, which is remarkable. Even Amazon's Alexa can already tell you that Hurricane Milton has strengthened to a hurricane and has wrought destruction. Alexa.
Fun fact: did you hear about that?
No, apparently Alexa is talking about it in the past tense.
Yeah, so apparently before Hurricane Milton was elevated to a hurricane, Alexa called it a Category 5 hurricane. And then it became a Category 5 hurricane. It was all over. So I saw this, and last night went and I asked Alexa, and Alexa would not respond. Like, ignored me. Like, it was just, I asked the question, it lit up.
Oh, really? It's just ignored now?
Ignored me. And I was like, wait, is it broken? So I asked a bunch of different questions. It answered all of the other questions. I went back, talked to me about Hurricane Milton. Bloop, nothing. Would not answer the question anymore.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, pretty interesting. All right, so let's see.
This is amazing, isn't it? It's really amazing how these tools work these days. Where I mean, even it's remarkable. Anyway, how many of you have tried that little skill? Of course, that's been going viral over the past 24 hours. When you ask Alexa about Hurricane Milton, before it even became a hurricane, it seemed to have already been updated in its database. It's remarkable stuff. How this all works. Well, it's already being called a record-breaking hurricane that's about to slam into Florida. People across the southern part of the United States are being told to leave and to brace themselves. Florida residents being told to get out right now. I mean, how many of you are watching right now that live in that area or planning to leave? Let us know. Sewers and water are already being turned off. Schools are closed and more are closing. All of this is happening as early voting is happening. Absentee voting is already happening across the South. So we'll have more on that in a second, but here's the latest.
In the meantime, let's ride our video monitors down to the state of Florida. That state is once again in a path of life-threatening hurricane. We're talking about Milton that's now strengthened to a monster there in the Atlantic, a Category 5 storm. So evacuations are now underway just a day after Hurricane Helene wreaked havoc across the state, or days after. Governor DeSantis calling on all counties there to speed up debris removal ahead of Milton's landfall.
Local officials and their vendors must continue debris removal efforts for those areas that are in the potential path of this storm. My executive order requires debris landfill and dump sites to remain open 24/7 to accept debris from Hurricane Helene. We need as much of this debris picked up as possible. This creates a safety hazard, and it also will increase the damage that Milton could do with flying debris.
Right. So now we're dealing with all of the debris from Hurricane Helene that's still there in big piles. We're talking all sorts of, plywood and wood, 2x4s, and car debris and shingles and everything else. It's just in big piles right now. Aluminum siding, things like that, all in big piles, which could be then projectiles for this new storm. So perfect fodder for this new storm, perfect projectiles. So overnight, Hurricane Milton went from a Category 3 to a 4 within an hour. And then within another hour, it became a Category 5. According to Into Thin Air, it may be the fastest move ever seen in the Gulf of Mexico. The thing is turning into a beast, and it's heading right into another storm that could also merge and then smash right into Florida. Bizarre swirling radar anomalies are also once again present here, just like we saw with Hurricane Helene. these same weird patterns from these radar signatures. And it's asking many people right now, or people are wondering if this hurricane is being controlled or geoengineered on purpose. We put up a poll here so far. 94% of you in our audience, 94% say that this is that weather can be manipulated for sure. So take a look. This is the hurricane track over the last few hours. It's highly unusual for the hurricane to intensify from a category 3 to a 4 to a 5 within 1 hour, meaning it became a category 3 and then 1 hour later became a category 4 and then less than an hour later becomes a category 5. Very rare. Media, of course, across Florida right now telling you to get out right now.
The Ready, Set, Go is a great idea of who's going to be feeling impacts, but you'll notice areas here where we're talking about evacuations and final preparations, maybe boarding up the house. You have areas in through Pinellas County, by the way. They do have evacuations, and they're also in some areas like St. Pete Beach. They're turning off sewage and water. Tomorrow morning, it's all off. So that's another reason to go.
Yeah, exactly. Think of this as like a stoplight. They stop what you're doing in your everyday life and get ready. Get your medications, get whatever you need, right, to make sure that you are set, your family's set, your pets are set, your evacuation route, in case you don't know as well. Hillsborough County.
So get out now is the message there. Here's the latest storm track from just a few minutes ago. This is where we are now, west-northwest of Progreso, Mexico. A category 5. Massive beast of a storm that's heading right toward, and who knows whether this will be, whether this will be downgraded from a 4 to a 3 or whether it will sustain at a 5. A lot of people saying there's a lot of similarities here between this track of Hurricane Charlie back in 2004, right before the.
So this is where he starts getting into the interesting parts, guys, right? So keep your eyes peeled. I want to get you guys' opinion. I actually just threw a poll on my channel for YouTube. If you guys think that the weather can be manipulated, do you guys think the government can manipulate the weather? They asked that question on their channel, and they had a pretty high, I think it was like 95% said yes. Would be interested in hearing your guys' perspective, even if you're not on my channel. What do you guys think? Throw it in the chat if you're not seeing my poll.
This is like, I honestly don't know anything about hurricanes. So they're predicting right now that it actually gets less strong as it goes on, right? That's why it was 5, 4, 4, 3.
Yeah,
wrong?
so apparently it when it crossed, and don't quote me on this, my understanding is hurricanes get strengthened by a number of factors. One of the factors that weakens them is landfall. It crossed over, or is crossing over Cuba, and that is what they're saying, that the hurricane.
It was a lot graded from a 4 to a 3, or whether it was sustained at a 5. A lot of
bands will be.
It's a little weird. Okay.
So supposedly, and maybe it's not Cuba, it might be part of Mexico. I don't know. But supposedly it's going to be crossing over landfall. That's going to weaken it. And then once it gets off of the landfall again, it's going to increase. And then it's going to be able to, that's where they're saying, I've heard today, they're projecting it may hit category 6. Which is crazy because I've literally never heard of a category.
I thought category 5 was the highest. I didn't know it went higher than category 5. Wait, what did they just add a category for this shit? Like what the hell?
I have no idea. That's what I said. I was like, wait, I thought it stopped at category 5. So I'm not sure. But guys, interested in hearing your guys' thoughts on this, because this is when they're getting more into this topic. That's
not a category. They just made that up for this. No, there are only 5 categories.
Imagine
they're like, we need another category because this one's that crazy. That's what.
No, that's actually crazy. That's a little bit crazy.
Sorry.
All right, let's put this out. Let's see what these guys say.
A lot of people saying there's a lot of similarities here between this track of Hurricane Charlie back in 2004, right before the election in 2004. But of course, that one came from a little bit south of Key West and came right up along the coastline to that direction. This is coming obviously from the Mexico direction here. And before you call it a conspiracy theory, we did a whole deep dive last week here on the show about the U.S. government's history of using weather modification in the thin air. Notices some very similar radar anomalies. We saw this with Helene back again with this very same storm, the same exact radar signatures that he's picked up on. Watch.
All right, let's take a look at Florida, and already it's looking like a disco party is going on. A lot of different radar activity going on. We got spikes here going all the way into the Gulf, heavy lines up in this area, and then of course we have the one we saw with Hurricane Helene right here going off again. Now, of course, remember, these are just theories that we're talking about here, entertainment purposes only, because no way is weather modification real, right, everybody? Anyway.
Right.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Just entertainment purposes only. There's no weather modification, except there is. And here's a whistleblower who's come forward. She worked on these projects. And she's suing and she's suing the federal government for lying to the American people. Listen.
And she's a military veteran, right?
Yes, I was in the U.S. Air Force for 9 years.
Wow. And you came out and blew the whistle on geoengineering, things that you witnessed were going on. Can you give us the real nutshell?
Absolutely. Basically, I had heard of what many people know as the term chemtrails. And I worked in a job called bioenvironmental engineering. And I thought that was insane. And why would we do something like that? Modify the weather by using hazardous materials in our atmosphere. So, and actually the process of trying to debunk it or disprove it, I realized it was actually coming right out of my office, as I was one of the people that was approving the chemicals. And it really shook the core of my oath. And I did a lot of sampling, a lot of investigation, and I blew the whistle and I got out. And I've now used my credentials, my oath, and my powers for good to help people understand it's very real. It's now openly admitted. There are multiple forms of weather modification. I specifically found the one of stratospheric aerosol injection. And collectively around the globe, we have to understand that it is now being admitted because they're saying it's combating climate change. Well, the climate change we need to be worried about is man-made climate engineering, also known as geoengineering.
Yeah, entertainment purposes only. So don't take her word for it. Take the former head of the CIA talking about it, how it's the most exciting weapon he's ever seen. This is John Brennan.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly.
Yeah, so the CIA is loving this program as well. Let's talk about the voting issue here. So we've got the weather manipulation piece of this, which a lot of people are wondering if it's going on with this Category 5 storm, similar weird radar anomalies that are also happening. Let's talk about this voting issue, though, which is being largely ignored right now. So North Carolina is ground zero, guys, for a Harris-Walz victory. If they can take over North Carolina, in a way, President Trump narrowly won North Carolina. If they can take over North Carolina, they'll win this presidency. Bottom line. And that's why they've already made North Carolina priority one this year already. President Biden touring in North Carolina. Harris rolled out her economic plan in North Carolina. They've been putting a lot of resources into North Carolina, television ads, marketing, and of course, campaign stops. So all it takes, Democrats need 23,000 votes. 23,000 votes. That's all the swaying needs to happen in order for Harris and Walz to win. And even Politico right away, after Helene hit, called this out and said, Helene hit Trump strongholds in Georgia, North Carolina. It could swing the election. Diving into the numbers, yeah, guess what? If these individuals don't have homes, they don't have it away, they're not there anymore. They've been, gone to Ohio to stay with relatives. They're not there for their absentee ballots because these post offices are now closed. We identified here about a week and a half ago here on the show all of the zip codes where these post offices are now closed. Mail not being distributed to these areas. Polling places without heat and electricity and without running water, which means they are closed. Don't take my word for it. Take liberal CNN's word for it. They're detailing all of these polling places which are closed. Election officials in Georgia, North Carolina, Florida work right now to amid Hurricane Helene fallout. Election officials in Georgia, North Carolina, Florida working quickly to ensure voters can still securely cast early ballots despite the devastating storm impacts of Hurricane Helene that have in some cases left them without power, water, and cell service. Potential solutions in the affected counties of the 3 states which could determine the White House could include extra polling places, extended early voting, and making it easier to drop off mail ballots. We have no power. We have no water. Cell service is limited. So right now the concern is a delay in getting the absentee ballots mailed out, a delay in receiving the...
I'm sorry.
Yo, sorry. I couldn't hear you.
Wait, so this is from the last hurricane.
Yeah, correct. That Helene was the previous one, the one that happened a couple weeks ago.
This one's not about to hit North Carolina or Georgia.
That we know of. We don't know where it's going to turn after it goes through Florida. Yeah, correct. As of right now, its only focus is Florida, to my understanding. Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry about that.
The mail, the executive director of Augusta-Richmond County Board of Elections in Georgia told CNN, Dawes said some of the county's 43 polling locations could be unable to be used. And that's just putting it conservatively, just in Georgia. Not to mention the dozens upon dozens in North Carolina, which are unusable and have been destroyed.
Thank you.
Where are these people going to vote? How are they going to vote? How are they going to receive these votes in the mail? All of these Trump voters.
Reinstate the Pony Express.
Red, I was thinking Paul Revere. Do we have any of those archetypes that can trot it in on horseback?
Well, you're making fun of it, but last week we saw that they're bringing in mules. They're actually using mules right now to try to transport supplies into these hard-hit areas of North Carolina. We have a lot of sources in that area that are working different angles of the story. We're going to bring more to you on the supply angle and what's going on in North Carolina this week. Some great journalists who are there that we've been corresponding with, and what's actually happening on the ground with the number of additional body bags that have been ordered. We're hearing reports of up to 4,000 body bags that have been ordered. They're still finding bodies in trees, in cars, all over the place, and they don't have power. They don't have a way to get supplies in. And there's also, of course, reports of sabotage of these supplies. And this was last night, where 2 black helicopters came in at a donation center in Western North Carolina, where they had lined up supplies. These helicopters came in and...
Did you see this, Jonah? I sent this in the chat. I saw the video of this alone.
Just on purpose, whipped, using hung over this particular area, flies into the area and uses rotor washes and destroys all of the stuff, and then takes off, disappears. They've been trying to find out who these helicopters were. They can't find out. And this was not one of the resupplies helicopters. These were unrelated to the supply helicopters. They came in and destroyed the supplies and then took off. And you had individuals.
Honest question, bro. Does that not seem a little bit weird to you?
It's weird. I mean, like,
2 unmarked black, seemingly military, right? We can't jump to conclusions. Black, unmarked, seemingly military helicopters go to where they're doing the donations in a place that's horribly ravished by this stuff, and then does what they call a rotor wash, comes down and just blows shit everywhere and then takes off, and then no one can find them.
It's a little weird, but also, like, did that really do that much damage? Like, I mean, it wasn't like they just started shooting at him or something. Like, that, to me, I don't know what that was. That was either, I don't know who's taking this video, right? How can they confirm whether that was there or not there, Kilo? Like, I don't know who the fuck the guy is who's filming. Does he actually know what the emergency helos look like? Like, who is this guy, right? I don't know what that means. On the face of it, it's kind of weird to just come in and blow everything over, but it wasn't like, but also, was that like a lot of damage, or like it wasn't like they started burning shit, you know?
Or your ability to ask the wrong questions is crazy, and to me, it's just crazy. To me.
Well, I mean, do you think my questions are unfair?
No, I just think they're irrelevant. Like, who cares who's filming the video? On the list of things that matters,
no,
that
but
for me is like
why
number 18.
Wait, no, but here's why that matters, is because how does he know whether that's an official helo or not?
Bro, a helicopter that no one knows who it belongs to.
What if people do know and this guy just doesn't know? Like who? That's all. I'm saying on the face of it, yes, you're right. I would want to ask questions like, okay, how do we know whether a helo is there officially or if it's just like a random helo? I just don't know anything about this.
Right? Oh my god! All right, we're gonna watch the rest of the video, dog.
I don't know why you think that's so ridiculous.
Trying to get these supplies out to people in North Carolina. There's been multiple reports like this of sabotage of these supplies. They dipped down, performed a rotor wash, which seemed deliberate, then flew off, destroyed a lot of the staging area, harming the people directly below. One was a canine security officer who was doing sweeps of these vehicles to make sure nothing nefarious was coming through. So they're asking, were they special forces, private contractors? They don't know. And then others were trying to locate through their flight trajectory and their flight tracking. They don't know who they are, calling them ghosts, basically. So what the hell is going on? It's hard not to feel like we're all being played right now, right?
Yes, I feel like that all the time.
I mean, it really, you have two hurricanes that are,
what happened?
Like, did you see the last thing he put in the video is like, we're coordinating with local police. They're trying to figure it out. I'm not saying it's necessary, right? Like police don't always make statements, but it would be, if there was like, what would definitely increase my what the fuckness is if like the police were like, yeah, what the fuck was that? We were trying to set this up and these random helos came in, right? I don't know the credibility. What?
Did you look and see that happened yet?
No, I watched the videos you sent. Dude, I've been too busy to like look up any of this shit. Like if that's happening, then I'm like completely on your side. Like what the fuck is up with these helos?
But here's my point. Why do you default to giving the benefit of the doubt to the wrong people?
Why do you not give the benefit of the doubt? Why do you only give the benefit of the doubt to certain people, Quijano?
Historical
right?
record.
I give the benefit of the doubt to everyone except Trump, basically. I basically give everyone the benefit of the doubt except for Donald Trump because I've seen enough shit where I'm like, bro, what the fuck is this? Right?
Bro, does his arm
Everyone
hurt?
else, I give the benefit of the doubt to.
Does his arm hurt?
What?
His arm. The guy who has his hand in your ass doing this to you. Does his arm? All right, let's finish this video.
Dude.
With you weird radar anomalies, you have all of these areas which have never been hit by this type of flooding in the mountains, areas completely cut off and polling places shut down now, conveniently destroyed. And all you need is 23,000 votes in North Carolina for Harrison Waltz to win the election. I mean, it feels like we're being played right now. So anyway,
let us know what you think of that.
Yeah, our thoughts are with the folks of Florida right now too, as well as all of the people devastated in North Carolina and Georgia and other parts of Florida. What are you guys planning to do? I lived in Orlando, Florida during the 2004 Charlie, I think it was Ivan, and I forget the other one.
He doesn't talk about anything. Okay. Wait, I think hold on.
There was like 4 major hurricanes that came across within like 4 weeks. It was devastating. And they all crisscrossed right before the election, right through the middle of the state. And they came right through, and it was utter destruction through Tampa all the way up through Orlando up into Jacksonville. So it was devastating. And they're talking about that this power could be out in these areas.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's about it. So I guess here's the question, guys, and let's talk about this topic a little bit. Cap asked the question that I think is good. Where do you guys think? It seems like a lot of people believe that it's possible that the government can manipulate the weather. Some people are on the fence.
No, they're just wrong. The government can manipulate the weather. They don't know that we have done that before. Like other governments have done that before. I'm telling you as liberal guys, look it up. We can manipulate the weather. It is possible.
What are the ramifications of that? Do you think that's dangerous? Do you think it could be used, to Cap's question, in a weaponized fashion, right?
So here's what I'm going to say. I don't know nearly enough of the science behind it. I do not know if we can create hurricanes, right? I have no idea. Where I've seen it used in the past, before you and I just started talking about this, is governments trying to create areas to make them more livable. So for instance, Saudi Arabia using it in certain areas, making it rain so that certain areas that were deserts start becoming like green, right? That's where I've seen it in the past before, right? Of how the different governments have used.
Your brain doesn't go, maybe they could use this for other things. No government's going to cross mind.
It is possible that it could. See, I've come up with the difference between you and me, right? I think things are possible. You think things are a lot of the times. When it is possible the government is using it in order to destroy elections and to create things the way they want them to. Do I think it's plausible? Probably not. Do I think it's definitely true? I don't see any evidence for it, right? As of right now, it's possible, right? I can't interpret what the hell radar signals mean. I have no idea what that means. That's a little weird, but I don't know what that means. The helicopters thing is weird, right? But also, like, that doesn't have to do with weather. One lady talking about how we have this as a tool. It's like, okay, we already know this is a tool. The other guy was just saying this could be a great solution to climate change. If we can control the weather, then we can fight climate change. He wasn't saying we're going to use it on hurricanes, right? That's just objectively not what the CI director was saying, right? So it's possible, Quijano. I just don't like, can I ask some questions that like make me question the theory that the hurricane is like, this is the thing. The hurricane is like controlled by the government in order to make it where Trump doesn't win, right?
Now, to be clear, I don't know that I agree with that implication at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the video seems to be implying. Right?
Yeah.
That's what
I just think it's an interest. I mean, that's his conclusion. I don't know that I draw the same conclusion. I really don't. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Because like for me, when I think about it, it's like, okay, Tampa is very liberal. That's a liberal stronghold in Florida, right? And it's just smack going into Tampa, right? It's a little weird if you're trying to if you're trying to like screw Trump out of votes, which was his implication with the whole thing, that you would manipulate a hurricane to hit a liberal stronghold. That's weird to me, right? Maybe they had to hit it in order to hit the places they want to hit it. I don't know. I find that weird, right? That seemed weird to me. And I don't know and that's like, I guess that's my main question right now, right? I would just need to see more personally to be convinced. I'm not saying there aren't weird things happening. The helicopter thing is weird. I have questions about it though. Like, okay, it just seems like nobody knows what's going on with the helicopters. I don't know. That's my whole opinion on it. It's like, I just don't know. I'm going with probably not, but I'll keep my mind open that if like someone has like a time like, no, watch this. Here's how the government used the weather to control X. Then it's like, okay, I'm more likely to believe it. It's just, I don't see the evidence more for that versus just climate change, right?
Here's the issue that I have, man. And this is the issue that I take with anybody who takes your stance, right? And this is, I said this in the voice clip, right? And Cap, you know, I can only respond to what you put in here in the comments. We've never actually spoken, to my knowledge. If we have, I apologize, but hopefully we do, and I can actually get this from the horse's mouth, if you will. That's exactly what happened. The helicopters, boom, mystery solved. But here's the thing, right?
Just see Haitians in the helicopters, just like fucking. Anyways, I'm sorry.
That's the way to do it. No, but here's the thing, right? And I think everybody, both sides are guilty of this. This left and right stuff is silly, but let's just, for the sake of the argument, like what I notice with people who share your perspective, whether it's liberal or otherwise, it's like Cap saying it right here. Here's the question: if the government can manipulate the weather, and why don't they use it to attack enemy nations? There's no evidence of this. Respectfully, you guys are just lazy. Like, and I'm going to ask this respectfully: who the hell do you think you guys are? That someone has to go out of their way to prove truth to you. Nobody does. And here's my point, and I say this respectfully, and then we can circle back. I want to hear your response. Nobody has to prove that to you, bro. If you want to choose to be naive and live in a little fairy tale land where everything the TV tells you is true, and everybody who doubts the TV is a crazy conspiracy theorist, go crazy. But what I can promise you without a shadow of a doubt is that if there is an alternative version of the story, it is nobody's responsibility to get that version but you. And if it's true that the government or the powers that be are lying to you, it is nobody's responsibility to find that out but you. Because no one's going to deal with the responsibility or the ramifications of those lies if/when those lies start to play out in your lives but you. But what you guys do, and when I say you guys, I mean the people who take what I refer to be an intellectually lazy approach towards topics like this, if you guys if you guys take this position, right, and make this concept like, oh, well, I haven't seen evidence, you have to show me evidence. No, I don't. Because the reality is, if somebody is out here lying in your face and doing nefarious acts in this nation that can negatively impact you, and you're naive enough to not ask questions, that's your own dumb fault. My question to you is, why aren't you intellectually responsible enough to ask the questions your damn self without waiting for somebody to come and prove to you that something's crazy is happening, right? And it's the example that I gave you when I mentioned this earlier, right? Your response to me was, yeah, but I don't know that they would do that. I've seen no evidence of it. Well, you've never looked for evidence. That's why you've never seen it. But you in your brain say, because I've never seen evidence, evidence doesn't exist. And while you don't say that out loud, that is what you believe. That is the conclusion your brain automatically comes to when you shut down ideas that seem foreign to you. And I'm using the general you here, Jonah. That's the conclusion.
You're also talking to me. I mean, I did do this.
I'm also. No.
Don't worry. I'm not offended.
Yeah. But it's like what you guys often, not always, often do is say, I've never seen evidence. It's not true. When the accurate translation of that is you've never looked for evidence. And as a result of your laziness to do research on the topic that's foreign to your worldview, you just assume that because it wasn't thrown in your face and served up to you, like the rest of the information that drives your decisions on this life, you're just going to believe it's a lie. What you don't realize is that everything that you believe right now, everything you believe has been given to you. Very little of what the people who espouse being the wise, that are the smart ones in our country, actually got their information independently. It was spoon-fed to them by people who they haven't vetted because they assumed somebody else vetted them, by credentials that they haven't checked because they assumed somebody else checked them. But the second someone brings you a worldview that differs from yours, your response is, well, what are their credentials? Bro, what are the credentials of the people you believe in every day? You don't question the credentials or the sources of the people who share your perspective. But you question the ones that differ from your worldview. And that's why I say it's intellectually lazy. Now, I'm generalizing a lot, and I recognize that, right? So understand that I am generalizing. But here's my point. You said in the comments, oh, I don't believe that's true. I haven't seen any evidence. And then you said, so like, I just don't understand. Why would they do that? It doesn't make sense to me. Why would they do that? Why would they use it for nefarious reasons? It's probably just global warming. So listen to the conclusions that your brain went through. You're presenting a crazy idea. I haven't seen evidence. I don't believe it. Plus, why would they do it? I don't know why. Conclusion, it must be my worldview. You asked questions that you actually didn't search the answers for. Had you actually searched for the answers to the questions that you asked when attempting to refute the claim that you're saying is silly, you might have actually found a different outcome. So to that, I'll say this, and this is the example that I used. This is your line of reasoning. If somebody came and said, hey, this kid went crazy, murdered his entire family, the response of the people I'm describing would say, oh, that's crazy. You have no evidence of that. Well, I mean, we don't know what happened. We don't know that it was him. He's innocent until proven guilty, but the family is certainly dead. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. I haven't personally seen any evidence of that. So I don't even, why would someone kill their own family? It's probably not true. Your conclusion with that line of reasoning, your guys' automatic conclusion is because you don't have the evidence and because you don't know why they would do it, it must not be true. Now, it sounds crazy outlandish when I'm using this example, but make no mistake, the correlation is still an equivalent. So for me to say, well, the people are magically alive because you don't believe it's true, or because you don't know why they would do that, sounds silly. Well, in the same right, for you to say the government's not, let's just use this crazy example, because again, I don't have answers on this either. I'm just using this as a crazy example. By the same logic, for you to say, I haven't seen evidence of the weather of the government using the weather for nefarious reasons, and I don't know why they would do that, so they must not be doing it. It is the same line of conclusion that you guys draw on every conspiratorial topic. It's the same line of reasoning. It doesn't make sense in the murder one because that's something you can wrap your head around. But make no mistake, Jonah, the metaphor is an equivalent. And it is the exact same thing. If you automatically say something didn't happen because you personally haven't seen evidence and you don't understand why they would do that, that's silly. There's things that happen every day that you have no fathomable concept of why it took place. That is completely mind-blowing to you. And it happens every day right in front of your face, relatively speaking, right? Whether it be in the Washington or in another country or in some island in the middle of nowhere, right?
So,
there's crazy things that happen. Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I'm going to use a really extreme example because I'm going to argue that you do this too. I think every human does this, right?
Fair enough.
So I'm going to use an extreme example where you do this, right? I show you a video of a guy with a top hat. You see the inside of the top hat. It's obviously empty. He flips the top hat and then he pulls out a bunny and he tells you magic is real. Why don't you believe that magic is real? Why don't you question whether magic is real? Because honestly, Quijano, you should be, if you're following your logic, you would be questioning and doing the research, be like, wait a minute, maybe magic is real and everyone is wrong. Maybe this guy can fucking do magic, right? But I know you've seen a magic trick before, and I know you didn't do research afterwards to be like, is magic real, right? Unless you did, and you proved me wrong, you know, and you actually did.
My uncle is a performing magician. Was for 20 years.
Did you think
taught
magic
me many
was
magic
real
tricks as
other
a
than
child.
when you were a kid, right? Like, but you get my point, right? In the sense of
no, for the record, I do not get your point.
Why don't? Well, okay. Did you do research that magic is real?
And this is not a fair example because my uncle,
why?
Because my uncle was a magician for like 30 years. Like he was so David Blaine and Chris Angel, like all knew him. He owned a shop in LA called Tricks by Rick. These famous magicians bought tricks from my uncle. Actually, David Blaine stole one of my uncle's tricks and put it up on TV.
Never mind.
So
you're part of the magic conspiracy. Shut up. Okay. So then, all right. Unfortunately, I chose the wrong example, right? But like, using your system, right? Wouldn't I, as a person, have to investigate that claim, right? In the sense of like, what you're saying is that I see magic and I'm claiming that it's real.
This is dumb. This is not true. Just to be clear, Clap, I don't know who came up with this. This is stupid. I disagree with this vehemently.
I also agree with this. We've talked about this several times, right? Because the issue, Quijano, is that if the person who's bringing a claim has to prove it, because otherwise, in the end, I'd have to investigate fucking everything, right? Every single thing that's ever brought to me, right?
Got you. So when a young girl comes and says her uncle's molesting her, she gets to get fucking molested for the next 10 years of her life because she can't bring evidence of that based on your logic? Walk me through why that's irrefutable line of reasoning.
But she would, if she wanted to prosecute her uncle in a court of law, she does actually need to bring evidence. There has to be evidence for that, right?
Okay.
That's the truth, right?
My question
that's how it should be. Obviously, me as a personal human being, I'm gonna just believe her because I'm gonna be like, oh my God, okay, let's call the police. Let's figure it out.
I'm talking to an individual with the ability to process information and rationalize reasonably. By that measure alone, I'm not talking about someone being convicted in the court of law. Obviously, if we're talking about convicting someone in the court of law, evidence has to be brought. But if you're an intelligent individual with objective reasoning skills, it is intellectually lazy to refute every single solitary idea that's foreign to you as silly unless they can prove it to you.
Okay,
You're lazy. You're sitting there on your little chair saying, nope. And if you're not going to prove it to me, and here's my simple point. If you bring me information, am I not responsible? And I'm going to say this as, no, I'm not going to ask this as a question. I'm going to make this as a personal statement. In my opinion, if you bring me information that is new to me, that I have never heard before, I have a couple of options. Dismiss it as foolish because I've never heard it before. Well, history is full of people who have dismissed ideas as foolish that are commonplace now, i.e. airplanes. And we can go down the list. So my option is dismiss it as foolish until you prove me otherwise, blindly believe it for no reason whatsoever, or accept it as possible, listen to you present your evidence, and if I'm intellectually curious, decide for myself if I think it's interesting. My opinion is that an intellectually curious individual should do the final op. It is on you to think for your damn self. It is lazy to think that if you want me to open up my brain to a new idea, you got to do the work to prove it to me. And I'm not going to think anything new is possible until you do the work. It's lazy. Sorry. I said what I said, and you're not going to change my mind on that. Now,
I'm going to show you how you do this, because I guarantee you do this. You don't, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to live life, right? Molesting someone, that is something that I know is possible in the realm of the universe. I know molesting cases. There's plenty of evidence that molestation happens, right? That is like obviously an undeniable thing that happens in this universe, right? That's just something that happens, right? And I'm going to get back to the conspiracies because this is where I was going, right? Like I chose something that I thought would be like a good example, but I'm going to choose it at like different examples, right? So molestation, that's something we both agree definitely happens. So when someone brings it to you, I take it seriously because it's definitely a possibility, right? I show you a video of me flying. No airplane. I am floating in the air, right? How do you react to that? I claim that I can fly, right? What do you do? Like, do you
my honest opinion?
I want to know. Yeah. Like you see a video of me flying, right? You don't know anything else. It just looks like I'm flying. What do you do? Because I'm just curious. Like, what's your first thought of like what's happening?
So I'll tell you exactly how I do this. Here's the thing, bro. Like, you're not going to catch me. I told you last week how I do this, right? You agreed it was a good idea, and then you completely threw it in the garbage and went back to just discrediting anything unless everybody went and did all the work for you, right? So if you, Jonah, who I know and respect, are vehemently convinced that you have flown, I'm going to say, all right, Jonah, well, I'm going to be honest with you, man.
I'm a random person. Pretend I'm a random person. Not someone that you respect, just a random person you've never met before.
My brain is going to go, probably not, but hey, I'm open to being surprised. Show me what you did.
So that's what I just did with the theory about the weather, right? So in the same way, literally with this example, you're saying probably not, but I'm open to hearing more. And then if I'm following your logic and I'm the guy flying, I should be like, bro, do your own fucking research. Like, what do you mean? Why do your own research so that I can fucking fly.
But you're not playing out the rest of the story, right? But you're not playing out the rest of the story. Here's the rest of the story. The rest of the story in your example is probably not, but maybe, right? Same thing that I said. Probably not, but maybe. But here's where it goes from there. And this is where the crux of it is. Your next conversation is, yeah, this crazy dude said he could fly. Yeah, I doubt it. And you go back to believing and you let the conversation go. You never revisit again intellectually. And you just assume that unless they proved it immediately, it was absolutely crazy.
No, that's not what I do. Wait, hold on. That's not what I do. What I would say to the person is like, okay, show me more evidence that you can fly than just this video, right?
Okay.
And you're saying I'm being intellectually lazy because I'm supposed to do my own research.
No. What I'm saying is like Jonah, you have an entire track record. Every single now you've gotten better recently, so let me credit that. But let's assume before this, at the beginning, 100% of anything I brought to you or Jamarco brought to you that differed from your worldview, your response was
bringing
no.
me people flying. That's what you guys are doing. You're showing me videos of people flying. That's all you're doing, and being like, bro, how does this not convince you? That's in my opinion what's happening, but okay.
Here's my simple answer, and then I'm going to prove my point, right? I'm going to show you the simple answer, and then I'm going to prove my point. So my simple answer is that, bro, Cap, I don't care. I genuinely don't care.
Keanu doesn't care about logic.
No. I don't care about their conclusion of logic. And I would argue that if you're just going to listen to what some book tells you logic is without coming to your own conclusion, you're philosophically lazy. And that's okay. Some people are going to be that, right? This is why not everybody in Rome was sitting there with Aristotle talking about the philosophy of life.
Talk to me about the flying man real quick.
Right? So if you go and this guy tells me that, I'm going to say that's very unrealistic. I've never seen that before. But here's the thing. This is where we differ. I am genuinely curious. That's the difference. I am not, just show me and we'll see. I'm actually curious. If this person seems like they're off and they're full of shit, well, then I'm going to use basic human, profiling skills, right? It's just like anybody else. If I can tell somebody's lying to me, I'm not going to fucking you know what I mean? Like, this is common sense.
I understand.
But if somebody is like, this person is convinced, they're showing me this video, and this is a crazy example. We're talking about somebody flying, right? But if this person,
I'm using an extreme example to prove a point.
If this person's convinced, here's the difference. The difference between me and the people that I'm describing, I'm not even going to use you because I don't think you're universally like this. I think you're largely like this. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt even in this particular topic. I think the people that I'm referring to, they will dismiss and go away. That's bullshit. I'm actually a curious person when it comes to these things. My deductive reasoning, based on the rules that I outlined in the last podcast where we talked about this, is I'm actually curious. I will not give myself permission to dismiss it, no matter how crazy it sounds. I'm not going to. I actually need to hear and see how this plays out. That's the difference. And the actions one takes when they are open-minded with genuine curiosity is different than someone who's skeptical but is willing to be proven wrong. If someone irrefutably goes out of their way to put peer-reviewed up, you see what I mean? That's actually not really open-minded. You're saying you're open-minded when the reality is somebody got to come with a Fort Knox hack to open up your brain on this topic. Do you see the difference?
I don't think I need Fort Knox.
That's why I excluded you.
Well, okay, but I don't think it depends on the person, right? But you're talking to me right now, so I want to talk to you, right? Sure. I don't need Fort Knox. I don't need irrefutable evidence. That's dumb. We live our lives based on things constantly without irrefutable evidence. I don't know that the lettuce I just ate doesn't have salmonella in it, but I'm going to have faith that the people I bought the food from doesn't have salmonella. That's faith. I didn't research this specific salmon. I have some faith. We all operate on faith to an extent, right?
Of course.
So I don't need complete Fort Knox. And that example, I'm realizing that example is a little unfair in some ways to you, because here's the thing. You kind of have to ask. You can't do you can't do independent research for one man flying. The only way to know is be you have to show me the evidence, right? I can't do independent research away from that. So that metaphor doesn't fully work, right? Here's my issue with what you're saying, right? You think we're being intellectually lazy. The issue is that means I have to investigate every single claim anyone ever makes, right? By your logic.
No. By my logic, my question is, why would you not want to be aware of the things that are happening in your world that can directly impact you? So when we're talking about can somebody fly, that's a different conversation. However, what we're talking about is drastically different. One could argue that in this hypothetical scenario where the government can control hurricanes, that directly impacts a lot of people. There's millions of people in the state of Florida right now who are living out the facts of a claim that people in the chat are saying is bullshit. In that situation, this has become an entirely different topic. I am not going to you or going to Cap and saying, hey guys, by the way, I have proven that DNA is not real. In that particular scenario, with something that unique and extreme, I can understand the philosophical argument. All right, bro, go crazy. In that particular example, because you're bringing to me a completely novel, seemingly untested idea that flashes in the face of everything that science knows. You're going to have to bring something to get somebody open-minded to that. Now, if what you tell me in your introduction of that information is compelling, I'm still going to be open-minded. If you sound like a weirdo, I may not be as open-minded. And that's where I agree with you that you don't have time to just vet every single solitary thing. But here's my point. That's not what we're talking about. In this particular example, what we're talking about is something that people are claiming has been true for generations, which means that you have the ability to find this out on your own. So let's say we use this idea of governments controlling the weather for their own gains. Okay, cool, right? You can fucking Google it, Jonah. Spend an hour doing some research. It's not my job to do that for you. The next question is, well, is that important to you? And that's a very personal question. If you don't care, don't look into it and just write it off. That's fine. I have no problem with that. However, what you can't do afterwards is dismiss the people who have done the homework, right? You have just in that moment said, this topic, this is my opinion. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but this is my opinion. If you say somebody brings to you, and again, guys, I do not have a full opinion on this topic as it relates to this weather control for the election. I'm not saying I'm on board with that perspective at all. I want to be really clear. That's not what I'm saying. We're using this topic because it just happens to be what came up with.
Yano is just fucking with us the entire time. He's voting for Kamala, guys. You guys just don't get it.
This whole thing is an epic troll.
Completely doing it just to fuck with me.
Get on my level. But now, here's the thing, bro. If I bring to you the argument, hey, the government is using weather control for purposes of war, and you tell me, I don't know about that, but guess what? That is not important enough for me to do my own homework to just judge whether or not I agree with your claim. That's fine. You don't have to do that research. If it's not important enough for you to spend that time, don't do that. But in my opinion, you know what you just did?
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Why doesn't the person who's bringing the claim, like, if they're so convinced,
not my job. Not my job.
Why did you even bring the claim to me then? Why did you even bring the claim to me then?
We have to, okay, but let's talk about for the sake of this conversation, right? Like, for the sake of this conversation, let's use the context of this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Well, let's just we're using crazy conspiratorial things. Hey, the government is doing X to fool you, right? The government has flown in millions of undocumented immigrants into this country, have spent tens of thousands of dollars per month per person for the purpose of getting them to vote in the general election, right? That is the claim. Here's my question, Jonah. Here's the question. In my opinion, as an adult who lives in this country, who is impacted by the ramifications of that claim, let me ask you a question. You and I are both adults in the United States, correct?
Mm-hmm.
As adults in the United States, you and I could and probably possibly will be impacted whatever way by the outcome of this election. True or false?
Yeah.
Correct. So if I bring to you information that tells you, hey, there's the possibility that millions of people are being flown in, tens of thousands of dollars per person are being spent to provide for them, to clothe them, to give them, provide for all of their needs. When we're giving $750 a household to people who are actually from here, we're paying $10,000, $20,000, $5,000 a month to undocumented people to the end of getting them to vote in the election so it can be skewed a particular way. The outcome of that affects us both. It is not my job to do that homework for you, bro. So you can find out whether or not that impacts your decision. That's your job.
This reminds me when I was in the Peace Corps, where I literally was arguing with like incredibly liberal people who were telling me they were making like these wild claims about like incarceration rates and things like let's just things like I don't know. They made like very wild claims about just things just being like I'm trying to like remember some of them where they were like I think they were just arguing something like you will never understand systemic racism. Like it is absolutely a thing. It is absolutely completely fucking black people in every way, which way around. And then I'd ask a question and they'd be like, dude, it's not my job to do research for you. And I'm like, okay, well, it's something I've heard of before. This doesn't seem real. So then no, I've done some research on this.
There is a point here. There's a point, bro, where you have to decide for yourself. Here's my point. Here's the point I was going to make. I want to make the point that I was making, right? You jumped in with that question. Here's what I'm saying, bro. My point is this, dog. I don't have a problem with you deciding I don't really care enough about that topic to do my own research. I don't. I'm cool with that. Right? But here's what I do have a problem with. I have a problem with you thinking that it's my job to teach you. When you're not even open to be taught, you're just trying to poke holes in
I
my
don't
theory.
need to be taught. I don't need to be taught in general, right? I just don't know. I don't know how to explain it other than you see it with certain situations, it looks like. You see what I'm talking about with the man flying, right? Where it's like, that's fucking crazy. That's just so extreme. You and I agree on it. This is, in my opinion, not as extreme as that, right? Like, I'll just do 4 levels to make this simple of an analogy. That's so extreme. You also are like, dude, I'm not going to do extra research on you flying based on a single video, right? Like, that's not enough evidence for you to do research and like start doing your own research on it. And he's refusing to show you evidence, right? We both agree there. Then there's these conspiracies, which to me is the next level where it's like, there are things that I have done research because you think I've done no research on conspiracies. I've done some research on
I just think you do research to support your own particular claim.
Okay.
Not,
well,
but that could be wrong on
go, that's fine, right? I do research, right? Maybe it's flawed research. I don't know.
You sounded a lot like Trump.
Maybe it's flawed research. Maybe it's flawed research. Actually, I do the best research. It's the greatest
research.
Like I research. Go fuck yourself, okay? Fuck, you completely derailed me.
All right, you do your own research.
I do my own research, and then based on the research that I've done on certain past conspiracies, some of them are totally legit. It is totally legit that the government completely staged the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and that started the Vietnam War. That's crazy, right? That is a historical fact, verified. I did my research. I'm like, damn, that's just true.
Bro, it's just a textbook definition of conspiracy. Do me a favor, Cap. Give me your opinion of what conspiracy is and a conspiracy theorist. Go ahead, bro.
Okay. So, anyways, so there are conspiracies that are true, right? There are some that are true, and there are some that are false. You agree? Do you think some conspiracies are false? Right?
A lot of conspiracies are probably false.
So then, do I truly have time to research every fucking conspiracy, or do I have to choose the ones that I'm like actually has what I think is convincing evidence? Like somebody's shown me something convincing enough where I do the research. Because I would argue that you do the same thing, maybe not with conspiracies, but you do it with other things that seem outlandish, right?
No, you were with me. You were with me until you made that statement. I think you turned left where you should have kept straight, bro. That's just my opinion, right? You said, I am open to them if you bring me enough evidence. I think that's the wrong answer. Now, this is my opinion. I think that's lazy. My opinion is the way that should have been phrased. Now, again, I'm not telling you how to think. This is just my opinion. My opinion is the way that should have been phrased isn't, well, I'm open to it if you prove it to me. I think the way that should be phrased is, I'm open to it if it impacts me. And if it impacts me, I'm willing to do the homework myself. That, for me, this is the line of reasoning. Now, you can say this is stupid, right? No one has to agree with this. Here is my opinion on the line of reasoning that should take place surrounding these topics. This is just how I think. Give me your opinion on this. I think that if I bring to you compelling or novel information, let's say surrounding immigrants getting paid $20,000 a month, we can't even spend $1,000 on our own citizens, and we putting them up in nice hotels and asking them to illegally vote in our election so we can sway it in the particular favor of a Democratic candidate, right? In my opinion, if I bring that to you, the line of reasoning should be one of two things. One, does that impact you? Yes or no? If it does not impact you and you decide that doesn't impact me, not going to think about it. Cool. Perfect. I respect your right to not think about that. But deciding to not do your homework also does one other thing. It removes your right to have an opinion on the topic. Period. When somebody else brings it up, keep your damn mouth shut. Don't have an opinion on the topic. Don't dismiss it as silly. Don't dismiss it as wrong, because you voluntarily said, I will do no work to find out whether or not this has truth. Cool. You are not qualified to have an opinion on the topic. That's fine. And I think that's just the way that should work. If I decide I'm not going to look into this and someone asks me my opinion, my response needs to be, I'm going to be honest with you, man. That wasn't that important to me. I don't have an opinion on that. That's what I say when people ask me about flat earth. I don't really have an opinion. I've not done enough research. Don't have an opinion. That's my response to that, because I have chosen to not do the work about it. What I don't think a person can do is voluntarily say, I'm not doing the work, but also have an opinion on the topic. Now you sound stupid, right? That, for me, is how that works. If you decide you do want to have an opinion on the topic because it does impact you and you want to do your own research, and then that research leads you to a different conclusion than me, fantastic. We can have a dialogue. We can go back and forth. Here's the evidence that I found. Okay, great. Did you consider this evidence? No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Here's the conclusion. Now we can have an intellectual dialogue and agree to disagree or change our minds. That, for me, is how that should go. I don't think you need to research everything, but I think that you said, if you convince me, I'll be open-minded. I don't think that's the right answer. I think that the answer should be, Daniel's opinion, is if it impacts you, you should be willing to do the work for yourself.
Okay.
And if you choose not to, then
I got a good example that might show you the flaw with this, but I don't know. So Keanu, you and tell me if this is different in your head or whatever. This in my head is the same, but I'm not as religious as you are, right? I'm assuming you care a lot about Christianity and whether Jesus is telling the truth and all that stuff, right?
Sure. Have
you researched literally every single other religion that has a truth claim about the universe, right?
I've dozens, maybe not hundreds, maybe I don't know. I can't say everyone because there's so many religions, but a lot.
Okay. So, but if I brought you a new religion, you would research it just off top. Like if I just said, dude, I swear to God, I mean, this is a crazy one. I'll try to think of like a better one, right? I think that's unfair to be like, dude, the tree in my backyard is a really fucking good one. like I think it's getting a little too much there, because okay, but like be honest with me. Have you truly researched into like Greek mythology and been is this my life truth?
For over a decade, bro? I could tell you so much about Greek mythology and yes.
Okay, then awesome. That's kind of but you don't think. Okay, you truly believe that it's fair to ask people to do how long did that research take you?
A decade.
To do it. Is it really fair to ask people to do a decade's worth of research?
I think that's I understand your question. I just don't think that's the right question. I don't think it has anything to do with being fair. I think it's just the way it is. The reality is, no, I don't have the right to ask you to do any research. That's not my place to ask you to do research. However, if you're going to try to tell me I am wrong, and I got a decade of research on the topic, and you listen to a 30-second video from your favorite news station, and you got the nerve to act like you're on the same level with me with this topic, and you want me to treat you with the same respect compared to the time that I have put in, at that point, no, you're not qualified for this conversation, bro. If you want to have this conversation with me, then I have the right. If you think you got the right to question my decades worth of work on this topic, then I have the right to tell you to do your fucking homework before you do.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I don't.
I'm not talking about. I'm saying that for someone to be able to talk to you, right? Because you're saying they have to completely do their own research on literally every single religion, right? I guess my point is that there's a certain point where it's like, dude, I have to live my life. Like, I do care about. I have thought a lot about like the afterlife and like whether it's real or whether God's real and all of these things, right? There's a certain point where it's like, dude, like I haven't done that much research into Jainism. I just haven't, bro. Like it's just true, and it's like, dude, they might be right, and like I might go to hell for it.
But the Indian people have a lot of different religions, and they all come from different places, and we could talk about all of the different stems from where you got Jainism, you got Hinduism, you got the Gujarati, you got all these different things, right? Like I understand that there's different aspects of, and honestly, I have probably forgotten more about that than I could even discuss right now, because it's been a long time since I've had that conversation. So if somebody wanted to come and talk to me about Hinduism, I'd have to say, honestly, man, it's been about 10 years. So I'm a little bit rusty on the topic, but let's chat about it. And I'm going to have an honest conversation. Here's my point, Jonah. No one has to do anything, right? Here's my opinion on the topic, though. I think if you come to me and you're open-minded and you want to have a conversation about it, right? Ask Jamarco, right? Jamarco, feel free to put your opinion on this in the topic. I started 2003 was when I started on this journey. 2007 was when I went deep into really going into historical research on this stuff, right? Like I'm talking about hours and 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 hours. Jamarco comes to me and I will still to this day say, look, here's everything that I know. I could be proven wrong tomorrow, but based on everything that I've done, everything that I've learned, everything I understand, here is my conclusion. This is the resolve that I've come to. I am okay with being proven wrong about everything I know tomorrow. And that right there, Jonah, that is the part of our last conversation where people struggle. They don't know how to let go of their worldview, because disassociating themselves from what they think they believe is a very difficult process, right? This is a huge psychological identity-based thing that humans struggle with. I have just worked through that. So I have strong opinions, but if you came to me and you said, hey, bro, I don't know, I got some questions, bro. Like this isn't adding up for me. What you're doing is you're coming and having a conversation with me. Now, if you want to come and debate me on a topic you don't know anything about, I have a hard time respecting you as a debate opponent because you're not schooled, you're not qualified on the topic. But as a person trying to learn and ask questions, I'll go out of my way to give you the information I have. I will go out of my way to provide to you the research that I've spent decades putting in. I will do that because you're trying to learn.
That's not what you were saying earlier, though.
Because the intent is different. If you're trying to ask me questions just so you can shit on my opinion, it's not my job to do that homework for you. If you're trying to educate yourself because you're open-minded, I have no problem having that conversation. That's the difference. The people I was talking to are the people, respectfully, again, like the Caps of the world, who basically, I don't even know, what did that say? Has not investigated all of the right?
He's agreeing with my conclusion from the question. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is my point, right? Like, I just don't understand the fact that this logic feels logical. It's intellectually lazy, right? When you go back to things like this, here is my question. If the government can manipulate weather and create cyclone, there's no evidence of this. Here's my point, Jonah. If you come to me, my opinion, this now what we're talking about is opinions here, right? Like, you guys can throw everything I think about this in the garbage. This is just my opinion. My opinion is, if you want to have a dialogue because you're open to learn, then if I want you to hear my opinion, I would be an asshole to not share my perspective with you. Now, on the flip side, if you're coming to just shit on my opinion and you're trying to find holes in something, you yourself are not qualified, then that's where I say it's not my job to do research for you. When we're talking about things like religion, that is a very heavy thing. And I think those dialogues should happen. When we're talking about things like politics, these things are happening in your country every single day. If you don't see the value in researching them, that's your opinion. I think that's silly, but that's just my opinion. I think you should want to know what's happening in the world that you live in, right? But here's my point. Here's where I call this intellectually lazy. Because a lot of the people who share the view that I'm talking about, we'll call it the caps of the world, just going based on what he's putting into the chat here, it's lazy. And I'll show you. He is out here acting like he running these comments, right? Acting like he's making all of these intellectual claims, feeling like he dropping bars. Found a smart.
I'm with you, Cap. I'm hanging behind you. Tiano's gonna shit on you. I'm gonna raise you up.
You shouldn't be, right? Because he sounds stupid. Because all you sound right here is ignorant. And I say this with love and respect, Cap, because I don't know you personally. You might be a fantastic human being, but this comment is ignorant. Not as an attack, but as a definition of the word. This comment is ignorant. This comment demonstrates to me you feel comfortable sitting on your little baby high horse, acting like your very naive and limited worldview is strong because you have a personal strong opinion about it. But you haven't done the work to earn that opinion, bro. And I'll give you an example right here. We'll go ahead and just get this. We'll go to an evidence side of this thing.
Wait, hold on. Can I? Okay, I'll let you keep going. But I also I didn't say my actual opinion. I was only questioning yours. So I also want to give my opinion on this.
Yeah, let's do that. Do you mind if I share this video?
Sure.
And researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York.
He's a cool guy, by the way.
See you.
Have you seen his other stuff?
Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't
All
it?
right. Have you ever seen Michio Kaku's other stuff?
No.
He's a good science educator, but keep going.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. They did not get into this discussion,
No.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really? To change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far, it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have
What the fuck was that?
control, but
she's like, wait, hold up, bro. You said the quiet part out loud, dog. You said
Wait,
the
what the
quiet
fuck
part
was
out
that? Like, why did he wait? What the hell? Wait,
All
did
right,
anyone investigate that?
Bro, this is the point, bro. This is information that's been out there. He just said the quiet part out loud. News people freaked out. We'll finish this like a minute longer.
Nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops? And if they don't have them, there's in the
So I think that's enough, right? We get the message here. But this is my point, bro. Right? And Cap, respect, man. We got to have you up here one day to chat, right? Because I feel like I'm coming for somebody I've never actually had a conversation with. And respect to your big boy horse. But here's my point. This is my point, Jonah. People get really comfortable being intellectually lazy, saying the burden of proof is on everybody else, saying because you haven't proven to me that my worldview isn't true, it must not be true. The family must not have gotten murdered, using my previous example, because I don't know why it would happen. Meanwhile, the evidence is out there. The evidence has always been out there. And this is why, to your point, so many conspiracy theories have actually been proven to be true. Conspiracy theories aren't proven true by lazy people who sit around waiting for the world to prove everything to them. Conspiracy theories are proven true by people who are willing to say, even though everybody is telling me that I'm crazy, I see information that's not adding up, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to reveal the truth. There is a difference between someone who's intellectually lazy and a truth seeker. My question is, why doesn't everybody want to be a truth seeker? You can't sit out here with a bunch of confidence, right, on your big boy horse, saying that this is fine, saying there's no evidence of this, when 10 years ago, and even in many other examples before this, it was known that in the Vietnam War, when your grandparents were in the Vietnam War, the government was using this. You gonna act like it hasn't gotten more advanced since then, right? So yes, this is my point. People comfortable making comments like this, Jonah, not realizing that the evidence is out there. So what are you confident about? The only thing you're confident about is defending your worldview, having absolutely no clue if your worldview is even true. And my opinion is, if you're not willing to confirm that before you run your mouth, you're lazy. And that's fine. You can be lazy, but just don't be disrespectful to the people who've actually put the work in to do the research.
Okay. Well, here's my opinion on the whole thing, right? My opinion, and you can disagree with it. This is just an opinion too, is generally people who can't substantiate their claims are kind of full of it. Generally, right? This has been my experience in life, right? Okay. Usually in life, and I'm gonna take it away from the political. I'm gonna take it away from conspiracies for a second. Right? Generally, people who say things and they don't provide any evidence for it generally are full of it. Because usually if you believe something and it's true, you can provide evidence pretty quickly, right? So let's go with an example, right? This is a basic example. I'm going to make the claim I can do a backflip, right? Pretty easy to provide evidence for it pretty quickly, right? I just do a backflip in front of you, and then I can do a backflip, and I prove to you that I can do a backflip, right? People who just say I can do a backflip and then aren't willing to prove it probably means they're full of shit. I could be wrong, right? Maybe this is flawed reasoning in your opinion, but that's just generally my life experience. Is generally that's what is the truth of the matter. Usually people, if they make a claim, they can back it up. And if it's true, they can back it up pretty quickly because there's a reason. Because if they believe that claim, they should believe it because they have some evidence for it, right?
So if you to Jamil right now and said, Jamil, how many houses have you wholesaled in your career? And he said thousands. And you were like, prove it. What do you think, Jamil? You know Jamil. You think
Jamil would be like, fuck you because I don't care, right?
There you go. Because when people
that's different.
No.
But wait, hold on. But wait, let me give you a different example, right? That's very similar, right? Jamil goes and is like, or exact same scenario, right? It's like, hey, I've wholesaled thousands of houses, right? And I'm like, okay, that's great. I'll just believe you, right? But like, if you want me to buy your course, I need some evidence for it, right? And he's totally happy to give plenty of HUDs to show that he's a legit educator, right?
Jonah, first of all, like you and I both have spent time with Jamil. Respectfully, I think that if you go to, now I don't know, we can ask him. I think it's going to depend a lot on what mood he's in the moment too, right? But I think if he's talking to a student and that potential student says, yeah, but you got to prove to me you've done thousands of houses. I would argue, I would be willing to bet, and we could probably confirm this. Jamil has never, ever, ever shown his HUDs to any prospective student. My guess is Jamil's response has probably been, dude, if you don't believe me, don't join. That's probably what it is. So I hear you in the theory that someone who is espousing a claim or claims that they can do X should be able to demonstrate that. I understand that, but I would also argue that many, I'm not even going to say most, many people who can also won't, because they don't have anything to prove to anybody. And the burden of proof is not on them, which is one of the other reasons why I disagree with this claim that the burden of proof is all, because it's not. Because at the end of the day, Jonah, would you agree or disagree? The person who decides not to join the coaching program because Jamil didn't prove himself, Jamil's not losing out. The guy who doesn't trust.
Jamil would. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I want to.
Who's losing more? No, who's losing more? The student who wanted to be proven wrong or proven before he believed, or Jamil? And I would argue the student.
But I mean, Keanu, I've heard Jamil say himself, like, when you're looking for a mentor, you should see that they've done HUDs before, because there are a lot of mentors out there who lie, right?
How many?
When he talks about like somebody thinking about joy, he won't do it because he just doesn't have the fucking time, right? But an Astro sales rep will absolutely show you HUDs that Keegley has done before. And they're like, go to Keegley's website, they provide a bunch of evidence. They're like, go to Keegley's website, look at Jamil's Instagram. He's teaching about wholesaling here, right? There's tons of evidence that's leading towards it that is presentable, right? I'm like 95% sure if you asked an Astro student, because I've heard Pace and Jamil talk about, like, you should be able to provide HUDs if you're an educator. You shouldn't, that is something you should be able to provide if someone asks of you. It's different if you go to Jamil at a fucking party and like, it's just like, hey, show me your HUDs. I don't believe you. Because it's like, dude, fuck you. I don't know you. I don't have anything to gain from showing you, right? But it's different when it's like, hey, I'm trying to make an educated decision here. Like, you want more students. I know you want more students. So I need to just know that you're not, I need to know that I can trust you with paying you money. And then he'd happily show you the HUDs, right? So I guess the point is that here's what I would say, right? To kind of clarify it, and we might find some agreement here, is that I do agree that the intent does matter. But the question is if I come to you with the intent of, like, not like maliciously trying to just fuck you, trying to just poke holes in your theory, right? You think I'm doing that. I think I'm honestly just trying to ask you questions. But if I am like truly trying to understand, right? And then the evidence you present me isn't great evidence, then is it my responsibility to keep doing research after that? What you're saying is it's yes. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, at that point, you can say, look, dude, like, you didn't provide me good evidence, so I just think it's most likely not true, right? And I think that's okay, because the person making the claim, if they're bad at presenting evidence, either they're bad at presenting evidence or there is no evidence, because why do they believe it so much and they can't provide evidence, or they provide kind of mediocre evidence, right?
No, I hear you. And whether you believe it or not, bro, I think you actually just proved my point. I'll explain. Here's
reverse Unoing me.
I reverse Uno'd you. Get ready.
Now, when I snap my fingers, you'll forget that you're ever gay.
Here's why I think you just proved my point, bro. Let's just use the same example that you just gave, right? When you go to a Jamil, I think you and I do agree. I think the intent matters. Your attitude with which you approach them matters, and that is going to change your result. So
sure,
we agree with that. That is one of the points that I made earlier, right? So we agree with that. But here's the other point, bro. Let's use this same example. I have no clue what the New Reach or that community's policy is on showing HUDs, right? If you're going to talk to Astro and are they going to show HUD, I have no clue what an Astro sales rep is going to do. I don't, right? However, let me ask you this. Whether they provide the HUDs or not, has Jamil closed the deals?
Yes.
Okay. Whether the evidence is provided to the person upon asking or not does not change the existence of the evidence, only their access to it. If they wanted to go and do the research on their own, they could find that information. I would argue that if they were doing their own research, they wouldn't have needed to ask the Astro rep, because anybody who spent 5 minutes in this industry should know who Jamil Damji is and the fact that he's overwhelmingly credentialed, right, when it comes to this particular topic. So the fact that this person's asking that question tells me this guy hasn't even done his homework. He's relying on an Astro salesperson to do the homework. And an Astro salesperson didn't do the homework that this person had the ability to do themselves, and that lack of evidence causes them to not join. Let me ask you an honest question. Did they protect themselves by not joining, or did they lose out by not joining?
Say that one more time. I think I lost you.
Did the guy who chooses not to join because, let's say, the Astro rep doesn't give them the evidence that they need, and the guy decides, I'm not going to join, and then just never does wholesaling because he didn't learn, because he never joined Astro, did that guy lose out or did he win? Arguably.
In Jamil's case, lost out. But
No.
the slimy guy on the street, if it was the same thing, he would have been lost out.
No. You're
For Jamil, he would not have lost out. Correct.
No. He lost out by not joining.
Correct. Sorry. Yes, he lost out for not joining.
Exactly. And in this, you prove,
because luckily Jamil is real.
And in this, you prove my point. In
but how
this,
many more people are liars?
Once again, Jonah, we said this in another podcast. The existence of bad information doesn't replace your responsibility to vet it yourself and still seek out good information. The existence of the possibility that you're going to be told a lie shouldn't replace your desire to search out for the truth. So the argument that somebody else might be lying is a straw man argument, because even if your argument is sound, but yeah, that philosophy might have saved him from another bad guy. True. But he still lost out. Why? Because he put the burden of evidence on a third party when he could have done the research himself. And he made the wrong decision because of his lack of knowledge, because he put the responsibility of gaining understanding on a third party.
Okay, but question.
Go. Okay.
So guys asking the Astro rep, hey, like, I really like it. Based on everything, it seems like Jamil's legit. I just want to just double check. I want to make sure that, like, because like this part, you know, like I just really want to know, like, is there any way you could send some HUDs that like his company's done or something like that? And then they can't show anything.
Should
that guy question that?
That's you're proving my point. This right here.
Wait, hold on. You didn't hear my question.
No, I'm agreeing. I heard you. I'm asking you. I'm answering you. Like literally, this is, you tried three metaphors. This is the one. This is the one that hits home, Jonah. This is the perfect metaphor for this example, right? Mm-hmm. This is perfect. I am not disagreeing with you. I understand. He goes to the Astro rep. The Astro rep says, hey, bro, sorry, we don't provide HUDs. Let's just say that's his response. I can understand this prospective student saying, I don't trust you if you can't provide HUDs. But here's my point, Jonah. Could he find that out on his own without waiting for the Astro rep to do it? Yes or no?
For the HUDs, I think it would be kind of hard, but I get your point. Let's say it's some other evidence. Like you can't just find HUDs online. Well, I guess you could. I guess you could find like transactions done by Keighley online, right?
You could find that. You could go and listen to the wealth of evidence. You can go and talk to the agents that he works with. There's about 50 different ways you could vet Jamil without waiting for an Astro rep. So here's my point, and this is perfect to my example, Jonah, which is why, unfortunately, this fantastic example doesn't prove your point, bro. It proves the one that I'm trying to espouse here, which is if you continue to wait for someone else to prove something to you before you will open your mind up to the possibility of something, you are going to find yourself relying on other people to think for you. And as a result, put yourself in a position to miss out on information and opportunities to grow as a person. This is why I have a problem with this line of thinking. Because while I do understand the logic that states you can't prove it to me, why should I believe it? That is a sound logic. And this is why I love your example, because your example shows me the flaw in even sound logic. That even sound logic in a vacuum can be flawed if you're not willing to balance it against an alternative perspective, which is why I said last week, this is why you need to be willing to challenge the opposite of what you think as much as you're as you're believing your default. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself pigeonholing into a very narrow echo chamber and missing out on opportunities that were right in front of your face, but you weren't willing to do the work because you used the logical excuse that someone else should have done it for you.
Okay. I would just say, I mean, like, we'll just agree to disagree then. Like, in my opinion, like, I get what you're saying, but also, and in this case, you did
extremely
miss out.
valid point, Jonah.
Well, I agree and to disagree. Like, in my opinion, that's like the rare example. It's the rare example where they can't provide the evidence and then actually you did miss out. I think 9 times out of 10, I could come up with way more examples where they didn't provide the evidence. I think there are way more examples just in reality where if they couldn't provide the evidence, they're full of shit 9 times out of 10. There is the 1 times out of 10 where like it's possible where Jamil can't or doesn't provide HUDs, right? I don't know why he doesn't provide HUDs, right? That's a weird thing not to provide. He said he's providing it, but now he's not willing to. Not Jamil, the Astros person, because Jamil just doesn't have the fucking time, so it's just different, right? Thank you, Robert. We appreciate you.
Thank you, bro.
But 9 times out of 10, they're probably full of shit. I can't argue that other than my life experience. Like, my life experiences is when people can't back up their claims, they just have been wrong in my life. I don't know how to say it other than that, is that generally that doesn't lead me to good things, right? That's just what my life experience has been, right? I don't know. I can try, like, if you want, I can start giving examples, but it's just, that's just been my life experience. And in my life, if someone can't provide evidence for their claims, they've more likely been wrong than right. They sometimes are right. It's possible they're true.
I would imagine, my guess would be that if you vetted that out, you would find that to not be true. Because I would argue that, to your own point, as many, if not maybe more, of the people who are qualified to prove themselves never will because they don't have to. Period. It just is what it is. You think if you go to Jordan and say, show me your rings, he's going to run to his jewelry cabinet and show them to you? No, he's going to tell you to go F yourself.
Well, no, but there'd be a video of him, but there's a video of him showing the rings, right?
You'd have to find that yourself. But you'd have to find that yourself. And you're proving my point yet again. Not everybody who has to go and prove themselves to you. You should be willing to find this out for yourself.
Bring it back to conspiracy theories. If I Googled right now, I'm curious, like, this would be really interesting. Has the government used, and you might think this is the wrong question, right?
Sure.
The weather to attack another nation, right? Because that's what you would want the guy to do, right? I'm curious what would come up. Very funny. All right, you know what? I'll give it there. Like, the very first thing is the United States used weather warfare in the Vietnam War, right? Like, right there, right at the top, right? So maybe you're right. Maybe if I vetted that out and I thought about it more and I thought about the different situations, right? Maybe you're right. Maybe if, like, every single time instead I just did my own research and then just was like, okay, I got to research every claim that I feel like I would care about, right? And see whether it's true or not true. Maybe I would find that people are speaking the truth and they're just not willing to provide evidence because they don't have the time or whatever.
What you've done, Jonah, and this is my point, bro, what you've done is prove the point that we've come to multiple times again. Unfortunately, bro, as much as I appreciate you, and as much as I do think you are more open-minded than many people in your space, I think you're more open to the idea of being open-minded than you are actually open-minded, right? Because what you've just done is literally, if you go back and listen to this, you kind of talked yourself into a circle to proving your own point wrong, but still standing on it, right? At some point, you have to acknowledge, I would hope, that as an independent, intelligent person, maybe I'm just realized that my point's just not holding water. Maybe I need to stop defending this point, and instead of defending it, start examining it and asking myself, why am I defending this worldview so much? Is it serving me? And I would argue that even this own conversation kind of demonstrated that it's not, because you guys were confidently telling me I was wrong about a topic that you could Google in 5 seconds and prove that I wasn't. But you were sitting there vehemently telling me that I was wrong. Well, you did say in the group chat that you didn't think it was realistic and you had no information of whether or not
I gave it a 2 to 3 out of 10 chance possibility.
Correct. And a Google would have told you that it's 10 out of 10. And this is why.
No, that's not true. The fact the government has used the weather in warfare, then it's like, okay.
Fine. So first you said, yeah, but they could probably use it for environmental stuff, but they would never use it for anything else. Oh, well, they use it for warfare, but they would never use it for anything. Like, gosh, like, come on, Jonah, bro. Here's my point, dude. Here's my point. Here's the final thing that I'll say to this. You sounded just like Cap does right here. And here's the thing. Who the heck am I to tell you to think differently? I'm nobody to tell you how to think. My humble and very personal opinion is that this is an amazing way to be controlled. This is it. I am relying on other people to tell me what to think because you're calling them experts. Well, then my question would be, why do you disrespect your own intelligence so much that you think other people have to make the hard decisions for you?
Okay, so
right? That's not the right question.
In Vietnam. But I'll do research on this if you want me to.
But here's the thing, bro. Here's my point. Like the way here's my danger with this. And I will wrap this up with the 60-second video that we talked about earlier that Jamarco actually found the answer for. And we never share any of his stuff, so I want to share it for him. Here's my concern with this. And again, I am not trying to tell anybody how to think. I'm simply telling you how I think. Now, I do agree, Kat. I will say this, bro. You becoming hard in these comments, dog. Like you swinging. You are Mike Tyson in these comments, calling everybody a dumbass almost directly, but like largely indirectly.
Yeah,
right?
keep doing it, dude. Fuck Keanu's opinion of you. Like, don't let the haters hate, dude. Keep swinging. For
He did give me some love up there too, right? He did give me some love up there. Here's my point, bro. Here's my point. My concern with this perspective is if you want to take the perspective where the government gives me experts and okay, cool, society. You didn't say government, you said society. Cool. Society gives me experts. Perfect. Then when somebody has an opinion you're not sure about, Cap, then your response should be, hey, the experts that I follow told me this. You don't have an opinion because you just admitted that you wait for the experts to have one and you just believe them. Cool. If you want to do that, then you have to also admit you have rescinded your right to an opinion because you don't want to do the work to have one. And if you want to have one, that's cool, but just don't expect nobody to respect it because you don't respect it enough to do the work. If you don't respect your opinion enough to do the work, don't expect anybody else to respect it either. That's my point, right? And the problem is when people think like that, that's fine. Then sit there and be quiet and let the people tell you what to think. But don't sit here and shit on other people who think for themselves. You're just not, you're punching out of your weight class. That's just my opinion. Now, to that point, here is why I think this is a bad idea. This is why we talk about the rest of the stuff that we talk about. And this is where I think the dangers of the world that we live in are real. They do exist. And we're putting ourselves in a position to, we put ourselves in a position to be taken advantage of, right? And this is the part that I don't like, right? So I'm going to share this video. Sorry, Jamarco, I'm trying to find this thing. It refreshed to a different video. It's a short, so it plays weird on the computer. All right, here we go.
Either ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. This is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. Ideological subversion.
Now, that's a summary of a much longer interview where he talks about this. Now, this guy was in the KGB during the Cold War. What was the Cold War? The Cold War, right? You guys can do your research. I'm not a Cold War expert, but this was the war between this ideology and our ideology.
Yeah.
Right? And they were trying to take over. There were spies. Some believe that the Russian spies from then are still in the United States, trying to cripple the ideologies of America from within, to turn us into a Marxist or socialist society. And what you have is members of the KGB literally telling us what their strategy is. Go in and implant ideologies that differ from the core values and the basic fundamentals on which this country was founded. And you do that enough until you think it's your own idea. And then we don't have to do it at all. You guys are going to fight each other. And you're going to fight each other enough that the nation itself becomes completely subjected to all of these different differences. You're now separating, right, and dividing from within. And you end up having these 2 different arguments and 2 different ideologies. And all of a sudden, the thing that made America great, which was this founding principle of unified belief in moral standards, has been done away with. And you guys are fighting each other. And magically, America's no longer America. America becomes what the Russian KGB was wanting it to become from the very beginning. I would argue that this and many more things just like this have already played out in our face. Go on any TikTok with people going to a left versus right rally. Literally, Jonah, I'm sorry, bro. You are watching this KGB member for Russia tell us what they were going to do, and you can go on TikTok right now and watch their success. You're going to tell me that this was the only one dude who tried to do psychological warfare against the United States? The only time this happened? You're foolish if you...
Well, there's plenty of evidence that psychological warfare like this has happened. We tried it against Russia, right? This is this is much more plausible to me than the weather shit. That's like it was purposely done by the government. Here's what I would say though. This is like my interpretation of that. That could be true, right? I'm going to give that one a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 to 6 out of 10 that professors are overwhelmingly to the left because of Russians, invading or whatever you want to call it, right? Interfering, right? I'll give that like a 5 to 6 out of 10, right? There are other reasons too that I know about why like a lot of professors are liberal. Here's the thing that like at least intrigues me, because now we're talking about something completely different, I think, right? To me, this is switching topics. Here's my more worry for America, right? And you can tell me whether you think this is bullshit, whatever you want, right? So you know how historically socialism has risen in like almost every single country, right? Like the conditions for socialism usually come from countries that are already dictatorships, that are poor dictatorships, right? Or monarchies. It happened in almost every single one except Yugoslavia was like the only one that I've ever heard of that it came out democratically, right? generally socialism comes from like impoverished people who want equality, generally, right? Where does fascism come from historically, right? Historically, it usually comes from democracies that are afraid of socialism. So in my opinion, I kind of agree with you that this is happening. There's more socialist elements in America now, possibly because of Russia, right? I'm not saying that's like not possible. And I think it is like 5 out of 10, 5 or 6 out of 10. My greater worry, and it's true, like it could be like the Russians doing this, right? And then like this is creating the conflict and all that. I think personally, it feels like to me, I acknowledge this. I think the socialists, the craziness on the left is very real and dangerous. I think you're blindsided by or completely blind to the fact that Trump uses, and this is getting to our Trump conversation again, he uses strongman language, right? He appeals to that base of willing to go around the law in order to do a greater good. I'm not saying he's Hitler by any means, right? He's not as bad as Hitler. He isn't at all. But where right-wing movements like fascism usually come from, and dictatorships, is usually as a response to socialism, and then it takes over in a democracy, subverting the rules that are in there, right? That's why I think, personally, for me, I agree with you. We're in this place possibly because of foreign influence like Russia, right? Trying to make socialism come in. I would say, though, that at least based on our conversations, you seem blind to the threat that's coming from the right on the threat of our democracy. And you're only focused in on the socialist elements in the left. And I would say that the right elements are much more dangerous, right? That's my personal opinion. And we can get into how that's manifested itself in the Trump presidency, but then we'd be talking about Trump again for a while. And I'm more afraid of that because historically that's happened more, right?
I think you present a decent argument. I'm not familiar enough with fascism versus socialism and how that evolves to be able to comment on that. What I will say is this: you guys, and you specifically, are more of a left-right person. I told you this 100 times. I'll say it 100 more. I don't think the left versus right is really different at all. I think it's the same thing. I just think Trump's different. And I could be wrong with that, right? I think the evidence just proves that Trump is not part of the cool kids club. I think that George Bush is on the same team that Barack Obama was, and Bill Clinton. They're all part of the same fraternities. They're all working for the same crew. They're all here for the same end result.
Marco, get up here, huh?
Nah, I don't think that there is a different team. I think Trump is on the different team. That's just my opinion. Now, here's the cool thing. I could very much be wrong with that. I'm not like out here saying Trump's this like Superman who can do no wrong by any means. I just recognize this dude's not on that team. And if I have historically looked at the extremely subversive things that team has done that have been extremely negative to the outcome of our nation, from the CIA planting drugs and then creating a war on drugs, and HIV being created and put into black community, like we could go on and on and on of conspiracy theories that we later found out to be overwhelmingly true. They were not conspiracy theories. People believed them, had no evidence, but it was still true. Another flaw in your logic, right? And then we found out later, because people were willing to not shut up about it, because respectfully, people like you were ignoring them, that allowed it to go on for as long as it did, unchecked, right? Because but hold on, but here's my point. My point is this. This is where I'm saying that when you go through these things, you got to be willing to look at it objectively. I just don't think Trump's on that team. I think that whole team, the government itself, is all on that team. Trump is an outlier. Now, that being said, that's neither here nor there. You mentioned that this was a different topic, and I think it's a different subject matter. But here's why I think it's the same topic. I think it's the same topic because at the end of the day, bro, it all comes down to, in my opinion, how you and how me and how Cap and Robert and everybody else watching this podcast and everybody else in this country process information. It's my opinion, Jonah, that what we just watched in this video is able to succeed because of thoughts like this, because of this mentality, because this mentality is pervasive in our world, especially in the West, in the United States. This is the mindset that makes ideologies like that thrive. And this is why I have a problem with this mindset, because it puts you in a position to be the victim.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Unwittingly be the victim.
I don't agree with what he said there. I just want to throw that out there real quick. But
yeah, but while he said it, also said a very similar thought process, right? Now, you didn't say it exactly like that, but in my perspective, it is a very similar thought process that I'm going to believe what my worldview tells me to believe. Well, in that argument, Jonah, your worldview, especially if you're extremely liberal, which is you have said your family is, comes from this ideology. Whether you want to accept it or not, there is a greater than likely chance, I'm not going to say 100%, I would say greater than likely chance that the things you guys espouse as facts on this planet come from people who were putting this mindset into the country. Now, that's a different conversation that we can go into. Here is my simple point, bro. My simple point is this. This is why I am so emphatically passionate about people thinking for themselves. Jonah, I love you, dog. You my brother. I got nothing but respect for you. I think you're an incredibly intelligent human being. And if you want to go out there and vote for Kamala Harris like she's some novel idea who's going to be able to magically do something successful, go fucking dog. Okay, right. You said it, dog.
She is my new backup.
You go crazy, dog. Here's what I'm gonna say, bro. But if you want to do that, that's cool. I'm gonna respect you. I'm gonna think you're silly. I'm gonna think you're being naive. I am going to think, I would argue, no, you're getting played. And this is why, but I'm gonna respect your right to make that decision. I'm not gonna think of you differently. I'm not gonna treat you any differently if you go and you cast that ballot. I'm not, right? But this is why I'm so passionate about this. I just want us to start thinking for ourselves, man. I really want us to get back to the point to where not this easily played. You don't have to agree with me, but at least come to your conclusion of disagreement on your own accord and not following somebody else's process that you were.
One last question. How would you know someone's coming on their own accord, or they are just bought in, or are they just disagreeing? Like, sorry, I'm saying this badly. How do you know if someone's actually come onto their own accord, but they're just coming to a different conclusion than you?
No. I think that there's a couple reasons for that. Like, that depends on the person. You know what I mean? This goes back to what we were talking about the other day. Is personality types, how people process information is going to be a factor of their personality. So I don't want to generalize too greatly, because that answer will change depending on who I'm speaking with, because people come to conclusions differently. So I will gauge their conclusion based on how they would process information as that personality type. That's how I do it, because that's how I interact with human beings. That's just my default, right? And that's what I try to teach in my community and stuff like that. Cool. That being said, if I wanted to give a couple examples,
what's the link to that community? Let's plug it real quick. How do we get the Closers Collective or something like that? / just real quick / money, and you'll get a discount.
There you go. That's not a link, but try it. That means we're paying Jonah instead. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I better be getting a
also debate like Vance, which is cool. Now, but here's the thing, bro. Like, this is how I process it. Now, if you come to me and you have all the telltale signs of just parroting what everybody else is saying, then you're giving me a sign that you haven't done your own research. If the only reason you can vote for Kamala is because Trump, I don't respect your opinion. Now, because, like, let me qualify that. You have given me educated reasons why you believe that. And I think we should talk about those next week. I think it's officially time.
Finally happening.
Finally happening. We're finally doing it, bro. It's got to happen. Because if I'm going to sway voters away from the left, I got to do it now, bro. You know what I mean? I got to do it now. I'm running out of time.
I'm about to get way more voters from the right to vote. They're not even going to vote left, but they're gonna. I'm just getting them to abstain. That's my goal.
You're going to just move to Panama.
I'm just gonna get them to be like, there's no way I'm going to get anyone who's conservative on here to vote for Kamala. But I'm going to get them to not vote for Trump. That's my only goal.
To abstain? I feel like that's what you're going to do with the girls at the climate thing. You're going to get them to abstain. from relations with you?
Nope. That's
No?
a full-fledged vote. I'm getting their full support.
Now, but here's the thing, dog. Here's the thing, bro. Like next week we'll go into this, but like, so I think you are an exception to a degree. I think you're largely influenced by your surroundings, your upbringing, right? I think that if you spent enough time in a different surrounding and you saw enough exposure to extra information, your curiosity would make it very hard for you to stay in your camp. I just believe that. I believe that to be true. You and I have only been on this podcast for a couple of months, so I don't know what that looks like. But when you start coming, if you are just literally, Cap, appreciate you, dog. 100%, man. Nah, 100. Like, I really appreciate you, bro. And hopefully you get to come up here and chat with us one day, man. So here's the thing, bro. Like for me, if you just repeating the same thing all of the TV says, right? He's racist. He hates black people. He wants to take over the nation, and he's going to create problems. Bro, stop it. You just repeating what everybody else said. Those are some simple signs that would make me believe that you're not doing your own homework.
Okay.
Malcolm's a librarian. Malcolm's a librarian all the way.
He says libertarian, dog, not a librarian.
Librarian.
He also spelled libertarian wrong. That like is kind of making libertarians look a little stupid because it looks really
he's Australian. He can say it however he wants. Don't put some respect on his name.
That's how they spell it, Australia. I don't fucking know. All right, we can end it there. We're doing Trump next week, guys. Wednesday,
5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are going to officially tackle Jonah's mythical unicorn.
Can we get like Yvonne? Can we get Yvonne to make another graphic where like you're Trump and then like I'm Kamala and we're just like on the debate stage? That would be kind of lit.
That would be the best. Let's do it. Can you do it? Are you doing this?
Like put Hano on Trump and then me on Kamala's, you know? That'd be make it like a funny face or something. That'd be pretty hype.
That's it. Is Trump a dictator? You saw, we can talk about this too. Did you see that Elon Musk said he believes? I said this what, a month ago, 2 months ago? And then Elon Musk said it the other day, day before yesterday, maybe yesterday. He said he believes that if Harris wins, it'll be the last election for this country.
Bum, bum, bum. Oh, fuck. Elon Musk believes that.
Next week, we're officially finding out if Trump is a dictator or not. Is he a threat to democracy, or is the left the real problem? We're going into January 6th officially. Did he try to usurp the election? The problem. Can't we go, right, guys? I need y'all to bring your votes next week and see if we can sway them. I want to know. We should do a poll at the beginning. Who's voting for who, and see how many people we convert to one way or the other.
I don't think we're going to convert anyone. What I'm hoping for, and you're going to love this, is that people see the research I did about January 6th and how he submitted fake slates of electors. He's calling Mike Pence up in order to fucking throw out the election, right? Basically. And put in his fake slate of electors. I'm going to show all this evidence because here's the difference between me and Quijano. I know y'all are lazy, so I'm going to do it for you. And I'm going to show you the goddamn research, right? I'm not going to be on my high horse here belittling you, saying you're lazy. I'm going to do the research for you. And I'm going to show y'all how it is, right? And all I'm hoping for is that after that, because I know y'all are going to do it, you all are going to be like, holy shit. It is time to do my own research.
There you go. Well, we've already swayed the librarian party for Trump, just to be clear. So we got that going for us. Giovanna's going to be here. You know what my goal is, Jonah? You want to know what a secret goal of mine?
Shout out to the regulars also. Giovanna, I see you on here every single time. Richard, I see you on here every single time. Peter, believe in yourself. Capwood, Malcolm's on here. I shout out to the regulars, you know?
Yeah, no, we love you guys. Really, really appreciate you guys. Malcolm's family from way back in the day. Here's what I'm saying, Jonah. I'm going to tell you. Can I tell you a secret hope that I have on the inside? My hope, bro.
Republican or what?
100. I don't care what you turn. I don't really care. I just hope that I get you to get to the point where you're like, shoot, okay, you know what? I got to cast it for Trump. Trump, Daddy T. I got to do it.
You got 3 weeks, dog. You got 3 weeks to convince me. I don't know if there's enough time.
You guys heard it here first. You're saying there's a chance. That's all I needed, right? I'm going to go to work.
There's always a chance. I find it highly unlikely. We're going to give this a 2 out of 10. 1 to 2
Last 2 out of 10 didn't work out so well for you, homie. So all I'm saying. So, guys, that's our goal. Profit and Paradox Podcast is here to make conversations great again, dig into the hard stuff, really, really talk it out, make us think for ourselves again, and convert Jonah into a Republican. If we do that, we're winning life. Any final thoughts, Jonah?
I just think how crazy it would be if I reverse Uno all of you and I turn all of you into liberals. How crazy would that be?
Here's the thing. Would your mom hate you if you vote for Donald Trump? I need to know. Are you uninvited from Thanksgiving?
She would always love me. She's a great mom like that. She would always love me. She would still talk to me. She would just stop talking to me about politics. That just would be, we just would never talk about politics ever again.
Because I would feel badly if I got you uninvited perpetually from Thanksgiving. Like, that's sad. Nobody wants that. Yvonne doesn't care. Just to be clear, Yvonne does not care if you ever eat turkey again.
Wait, what? Did you just say that? She's like, I don't give a fuck. No, I mean, like, I have family members that voted for Trump. They still come to Thanksgiving.
Okay. All right. So then we're good. We're good. All right. So now we're ready for the conversion. Guys, Profit and Paradox, number 22. Next Wednesday, 5 o'clock. It's going to be crazy. We're going to become an evidence-based, full on. We going for it. This is
no more speculating, hypothetical bullshit. We're actually bringing receipts.
Receipts.
We are doing the research for you, and no matter what, you're gonna believe one of us and not do any of your own fucking research. All right, and that's what we want.
My hope is that Jonah does not come out here with a bunch of straw man arguments. But that being said, we love you guys. I'm excited. Do amazing things this week. Let us know if you need us. Profit and Paradox. See you next Wednesday. We're out. Peace.
Peace.